Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. I signed in at Akatsuki for 10 years and get the Kaido template. Chapter 1. On the hillside, Konan, who was controlled by Hanzo, didn't care about his own safety, and shouted to the people not far away. Konan, I can't abandon you. As the leader of Akatsuki's organization, Yahiko first looked at Tenu and Nagato next to him, and then at the kidnapped Konan. Even in the rainstorm, the ninja present could still clearly see the entanglement and pain on his face. Leave me alone. Shut up. Before Konan had finished speaking, Hanzo had already pinched her neck. The sudden great power made Konan's pretty face turn pale at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yahiko, Nagato, you guys don't want Konan to die. It's very simple. As long as you kill Yahiko now, the old man can guarantee that this female ninja will be released. Quote. Hanzo tried his best to hold Konan, naturally not to kill her. From beginning to end, he had only one goal. Akatsuki's leader, Yahiko. When Nagato heard the words, his expression changed in horror. Nagato, didn't you hear? Do it. Quote. Yahiko took a deep breath and reached out and grabbed Nagato's shoulder. Hanzo had said so, but he still didn't understand. The goal of this ninja demigod is not Nagato, not Konan, nor Tenu, but him. Yahiko is not dead, Tenu and others don't want to leave alive today. I can't do this. Nagato shook his head, his face full of struggle. If you don't do this, Konan will be dead. Do you want to watch Konan die in front of us? Quote. Yahiko shouted angrily. But, the struggling color on Nagato's face became more intense. No, but, listen to me, do it. Quote. Yahiko said without a doubt. I can't do it. Want me to kill you? I can't do it. Quote. Nagato lowered his head in pain. Sorry, Nagato. Looking at Nagato, who was full of pain, Yahiko suddenly calmed down. He didn't push Nagato anymore, instead he showed a bright smile. Take good care of Konan and Tenu. After speaking, before Nagato could react, the others had already rushed towards the kumu that Nagato was holding. Yahiko, do not. Konan and Nagato's pupils tightened, and their faces were full of excitement and roared wildly. Let you carry everything to live, it's hard for you, Nagato. Yahiko closed his eyes, a touch of calmness appeared on his face. Between life and death, he still thinks about his companion the most. Konan, Nagato, and Tenu, the first to join the Shao organization. Hey, just when everyone thought that Yahiko was going to die tragically by Nagato's hands, Tenu, who stood beside Nagato, had a panoramic view of everything but never said a word, suddenly sighed. Then, under Hanzo's frightened and angry gaze, he suddenly stretched out a finger, grabbed Yahiko's forehead and pressed him firmly on the spot before Yahiko touched kunai. Tenu, you. Yahiko opened his eyes and looked at Tenu with a surprised and puzzled expression. 10 years. I signed in at Shao for 10 years, and was taken care of and protected by the three of you for 10 years. It's time to return it to you. Tenu ignored Yahiko and thought silently in his heart. 10 years ago, he crossed the ninja realm, but he was not born in Novice Village, Konoha, but was born in a rainy country that was full of days and nights and wars. Fortunately, I met Yahiko, Nagato and Konan from the Grass Creation organization at that time. Not only became Akatsuki's first member, but also activated the sign-in system. However, although his system has 3 sign-in modes, one is to sign in members of the Akatsuki group, the other is to sign in at Akatsuki, and the last is to sign into the ninja world. Akatsuki has just been founded. Except for Nagato and Konan, naturally there are no other members of the Akatsuki mission to sign. Adhering to the cognition that not being able to kill a shadow with one punch is not a strong person at all, Tenu dare not run around in this perilous world of tolerance at all. As a result, he could only retreat and ask for the second time, a mindful organization, with the personal protection of Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan, and the ability to sign in time. This grudge, not right, is that this sign-in is 10 years. Host, Tenu. Sign-in time, 10 years. Sign-in location, Rain Shinobi Village, Rain Shinobi Village. People who sign in at Akatsuki, Nagato, Konan. Character template, 4 Emperors Kaido 100% completion. Devil Fruit, Fish and Fish Fruit Eudemon's Blue Dragon form awakened. Haki, Armament Hockey Top Level, Observation Hockey Premium, Conquerors Hockey Top Level. Physique: Immortal Body. Stick Method: Thunder 8 trigrams. Although Tenu has never stepped out of the country of rain in 10 years, he still won a lot of rewards by virtue of 10 years of uninterrupted sign in time. For example, the template of 4 Emperors Kaido. He not only unlocked a 4 Emperors template, but also relied on the 10-year sign in time to sign in the Kaido template to 100% completion, fully possessing the same powerful strength and abilities as Kaido. After signing in for 10 years, I finally feel a little safe. It shouldn't be difficult to at least punch a shadow to death. Quote. Glancing at the Kaido template, looking at the 100% completion, Tenu felt that he finally got rid of the label of the week and had the capital of the sign in location. But before that, he has to balance Hanzo, Danzo, and a bunch of rain shinobi and Konoha shinobi in front of him. The grace of the spring, when the water drips. This has always been Tenu's purpose of life. After signing in for 10 years in the Shao organization and eating for 10 years, the 3 Konin can definitely be called a spring to him. Then he still has Konin and Nagato a drop of water. No, it's a Yahiko, isn't that right? Boy, do you really think the old man can't kill? At this moment, Hanzo's cold voice like a life-demanding ghost came faintly, and at the same time, his hand gripping Konin's neck became harder. Nagato, the old man has changed his mind now. It's just that Yahiko isn't enough. You have to kill the little devil next to you called Tenu, and the old man will return Konin to you. Quote. It can be seen that Hanzo is in a bad mood. But think about it. He has always had a great vision, and he sees people accurately. Tenu was in his eyes, but Shao organized a dry meal. However, it happened to be a member of Akatsuki's organization, who had eaten dry food, and destroyed his plan. It's strange that this makes him feel good. Add another Hanzo. Tenu didn't speak, but glanced at Hanzo with the eyes of the dead. Originally, his dripping report was only intended to give Konin and Nagato a Yahiko. Now, he felt that adding another drop of water was wrong. It would be okay to add another Hanzo. Hanzo. Yahiko suddenly turned his head and stared at Hanzo on the hillside with murderous eyes. For Konin, he was willing to die. Because this is his life. But if he was asked to compensate the first senior member of the Akatsuki organization for this, he would never be able to do it. Don't scare me. Otherwise, if the old man becomes scared, he will let the 3 of you commit suicide before releasing Konin. Quote. Facing Yahiko's beast-like gaze, Hanzo smiled disdainfully. Ninja, tricks too. As long as he can achieve his goal and kill the enemy, he can do nothing at all. Not to mention using a woman to blackmail the enemy, even with a baby, he can do it. Sorry, Konin, I can die, as long as you can live, even if you die 10 times, I will not hesitate to Yahiko. But I can't make Tenu die here too. If I really do this, then what is the difference between me and the brute Hanzo? Quote. Yahiko clenched his fists in pain, his face extremely grim. When he yelled this sentence, he knelt on the ground in pain. Do you see it? This is the leader of your Akatsuki organization. You, a companion who grew up with him since childhood, are not as important as an outsider in his heart. Quote. Hanzo's pupils tightened slightly, but his lips were silently divorced. Are you finished? Just when the 3 of Yahiko, Nagato, and Konin were about to be tortured to a nervous breakdown, a cold voice carrying a will of the world blasted into Hanzo's ears. You, what kind of eyes are these? Hanzo, whose ear door was humming, subconsciously raised his head and looked at Tenu. A pair of vertical pupils exuding terror and oppression instantly came into his eyes. It's not just him, everyone present, as long as the line of sight touches Tenu's pair of vertical pupils, their minds are shaken without exception. Humph. Tenu's pair of black pupils have long since disappeared, replaced by a pair of blue dragon eyes. His sight contained a terrible long way. His voice also carries great oppression. A line of sight, a cold snort, it instantly changed the discoloration of everyone present. You. Who are you, kid? After all, Hanzo is the demigod of the ninja world in the past. Although he was shocked by Tenu's mighty aura like a dragon, he immediately stabilized his mind. You can't stay here. Danzo's eyes, surrounded by the Anbu crowd, flashed with cold murderous intent. He is the same as Hanzo. Never put Tenu in the eyes. The only thing he feared was Yahiko and Nagato. However, at this moment, he pays more attention to Tenu, who has more terrifying eyes than Orochimaru, than Nagato and Yahiko. The one who killed you. Tienu's eyes were sharp, and his tone was like pinching a chicken to death. Kill me. Not to mention that Konan is still in the hands of the old man, just these ninjas around him are enough. Before Hanzo finished speaking, an old face was shrouded in horror. He noticed that the continuous heavy rain that had enveloped the country of rain all the year round, stopped. The terrifying will to put the Buddha to rewrite the celestial phenomenon will forcefully change the weather in the space here. What do you think about these ninjas around you? Tenu walked towards Hanzo on the hillside unhurriedly. Every time he took a step, a rain shinobi or Konoha Anbu suddenly fell on the muddy ground. When he climbed the hillside and stood opposite Hanzo and Danzo, there was no more ninja beside the demigod and the Nabe King. Suddenly, the battlefield of Nuo-Da became silent. Everyone only knows to stare at Tenu with dull, unbelief, and shocked eyes. Is he really Tenu? Nagato looked at Tenu facing the demigod and the Pot King on the hillside. He really couldn't treat the stalwart figure like a god in front of him as the same person as the member of the Zaishao organization that he remembered for 10 years. So you actually have such power. Yahiko looked at Tenu and lost his senses. Tenu. Konan, who was already desperate, burst into hope. Stop for the old man. If you dare to take a half step forward, the old man immediately killed Konan. Quote. At this time, Hanzo also woke up in shock. He looked at Tenu who was close at hand, and immediately shouted. You can try. Tienu's cold and sane color in the pair of dragon pupils became more intense. Before Hanzo could do anything, his eyes were already bursting with appalling red light. With his body as the center, the sky was discolored and thick dark clouds emerged, and Conqueror's haki, which was violently hurricaned from earth coiling, rolled out like a shock wave. Is this imposing, or illusion? Hanzo and Danzo trembled. In the face of Conqueror's haki who came suddenly, even if they were expensive shadow-class powerhouses, they were shocked to stare at Venus and dizzy. It must be difficult for you to let go of Konan. It doesn't matter, you can keep holding her, leave a wrist and step back. Quote. Tenu stepped out, and he flashed in front of Hanzo, and grabbed his wrist pinching Konan's neck. Don't be too rampant, kid. The old man is a demigod in the ninja world. Quote. Hanzo struck a sharp spirit all over his body. He pinched Konan's left hand and immediately released it, and a chain was added to his palm instantly, tangling Tenu like lion majesty. At the same time, the empty right hand also appeared abruptly with a sickle stained with poison, and then slashed down at Tienu's head from top to bottom. Between the electric light and flint, performed the physical skill and the chain and sickle two-stage strike. This old fellow Hanzo has been pampered for many years, so he still has such a skill. Danzo, who had recovered from the side, was also shocked. Originally, he saw that Hanzo no longer had the style of the demigod of the past, and thought that the demigod of the ninja realm was old and dead. However, this two-stage strike with the chain and sickle made him instantly understand that, in terms of skill, Hanzo was absolutely the same. Qian. However, what made Danzo sluggish and horrified Hanzo was that Tenu, facing the oncoming chain and sickle, did not move, allowing Hanzo's body art and chain sickle to hit his body to full output. Click. But when the sickle and chain touched Tenu, they were all broken without exception. What? Hanzo's scalp was numb in shock. Thunder 8 trigrams. The corner of Tienu's mouth raised slightly. Fang Buddha was quite satisfied with Hanzo's reaction. At the same time, he grabbed the broken half sickle and swiped it directly toward Hanzo's face with the knife as a rod. Scoff. Hanzo wanted to dodge, but the thunder of Tienu's 8 trigrams was too fast. And it's completely a play style of exchanging injuries for injuries, and the same death. Even though this ninja demigod had not reduced his skills back then, he still couldn't escape. In desperation, the demigod could only follow the example of King Luffy, accepting all the output from the thunderous 8 trigrams of the face goalkeeper. Boom. What? A scream pierced the dim sky. However, this participation came quickly and went quickly. Almost the moment it came out of Hanzo's mouth, it stopped abruptly. Ninja demigod, after receiving a set of thundering 8 trigrams with his face wearing a gas mask was not only blown up, his body flew out like a rag. Bang bang bang. Under a continuous heavy noise, it broke nearly 100 towering trees, smashed several mountain slopes, and finally loaded into a lake. Hanzo, what kind of god do you think you are? With a thunderous 8 trigrams, after smashing Hanzo to death on the spot, Tenu threw the sickle in his hand into the mud, and glanced at Hanzo, which was flying thousands of meters away. The tone and eyes are full of disdain, joking, and contempt. Ha! Hanzo was beaten to death all at once. The expressions of the people who witnessed this scene were very wonderful. Danzo stayed. Yahiko was stupid. Konan was dumbfounded. Nagato was shocked. Witnessing the demigod of the ninja world was blown to an explosion, especially the close-up of the scene where Hanzo received the thundering 8 trigrams, which made everyone present numb their scalp and their hairs horrified. Especially Danzo. As a veteran ninja in the same era as Hanzo, no one in the room knew the strength of Hanzo, a demigod of the ninja world, better than him. But such a powerful shadow rank powerhouse was beaten to death by a young man in his early 20s in front of him. How could this not make him horrified? However, Danzo soon ignored the shock of Hanzo's death. Because Tenu's pair of dragon pupils full of awe-inspiring murderous intent has already stared at him. Run. Being stung by Tenu's dragon pupil so much, Danzo only felt cold all over, and the pores all over his body were tightly closed. The first reaction of the king of the pot was not to fight, but to run away. The old man hasn't become Hokage, so he must not die here. Danzo roared in his heart, and fleeing madly in the direction of the country of fire. As for the unconscious Konoha Anbu, he abandoned them on the spot. Tenu, he is going to run. At this time, Konan, who was rescued by Tenu, finally recovered from the shock brought by Hanzo's death. Looking at Danzo who almost ran out of flying thunder godspeed, she couldn't help but said to Tenu. Are we going to chase? Yahiko, who has always had his own opinion, is also a little bit disobedient at this time. Not to mention Nagato, who has always had no opinion. At this moment, both of them looked at Tenu with a sullen look. Why chase? Tenu asked in a hurry. He must die. Danzo Konoha's high-rise. Once we are run away by him, we are afraid that we will not be peaceful. Konoha may not see that we Akatsuki will continue to exist. Quote. Yahiko was finally relieved. Perhaps everything that happened today has had an unprecedented impact on his 3 views. He who has always believed in not relying on extreme power for peace, he actually proposed that Tenu kill Danzo. You have finally grown up, Yahiko. Now you finally look like a leader. Quote. Tenu first glanced at Yahiko with a little relief, and then said. But you are only half right. Not only Konoha, but the 5 ninja villages will not want Akatsuki's existence. Quote. In the past, Hanzo and Danzo could not tolerate the growing Akatsuki. But now, Akatsuki has herself who can kill Hanzo with a single blow, and it is no longer Danzo who cannot tolerate Akatsuki, and there are 5 great shinobu villages. After all, a demigod almost pulled Rain Shinobi Village into the 6th largest nation and Rain Shinobi Village into the 6th largest shinobi village during World War II. Akatsuki has Tenu who can smash Hanzo to death, and God knows what it will develop into. Then you let him run like this? Konan couldn't help but said. When did I say let him run away? After Tenu finished speaking, before Konan could speak again, his whole body had burst out with dazzling purple electric lights. Immediately afterwards, under the shocked eyes of Konan, Yahiko, and Nagato, he suddenly transformed from a human body into a blue dragon that was hundreds of meters long, soaring above the sky of the Kingdom of Rain. Dragon. Tenu is actually a dragon. It turns out that the dragon is not a legend. The Yahiko trio looked up at Tenu who transformed into a blue dragon and entangled in the sky, with complex colors on his face. There is shock, excitement, joy, but no jealousy. Is this Akatsuki ninja a human or a dragon? No, the old man must not die. Konoha can't live without an old man. Danzo, who was fleeing quickly, also noticed the movement behind him. When he caught sight of Tenu's voice changing into a dragon from the corner of his eye, he was frightened by 3 points faster on the spot. But he had already made a secret decision in his heart. As long as he can escape back to Konoha this time, he must become the 4th Hokage, and then use all his strength to eradicate Tenu. He does not allow Xiao Xiao to have such a powerful person as Tenu. Want to run? A trace of disdain flashed in Tenu's eyes, who had turned into a blue dragon. Then he moved. Even though he was huge after becoming a blue dragon, his speed was not slow at all. Tengen, driving with one hand, let Danzo run 1 kilometer first, and still caught up to the top of the King of Pod in a flash. Such a huge body, there is such an amazing speed. Watching the huge shadow falling from the sky concealed himself, Danzo, who knew that he could not run Tenu, stopped decisively, pulled off the right eye bandage with his left hand, and his head suddenly turned. A pair of scarlet Sharingan was not only exposed to the air, but at the moment when they looked at Tenu, they performed illusions. It turns out that he is afraid of illusions. Danzo looked at Tenu, who was motionless and suspended above his head, and his heart was overjoyed. Originally, he only planned to use illusion to create a gap and fight for time to escape. But now, he feels that he can be bolder. At the moment, he gave up the act of escaping, then took out a handful of kunai, and opened his mouth. Wind-style vacuum blade. As wind-style chakra injected Kunwu, Danzo suddenly jumped up, flying to the front of Tenu, holding wind-style Kuwu aimed at Tenu's dragon head and poking hard. It's just that he didn't notice at all. Tenu, who he regarded as having been in the illusion, showed a touch of sarcasm in a pair of huge dragon eyes at this time. Click. In the end, wind-style stabbed Tenu in the head without hope, but Danzo's expression became very ugly. After his injecting wind-style chakra, the indestructible wind-style kunai pierced Tenu, not only could not scratch the skin, but also shattered the kunai in his hand. The old man's vacuum blade can't even cut the skin. What a powerful physique this is. Quote, Danzo looked at the shattered Kuwu with a hell expression. Have nothing to say. A second ago, Danzo, who felt he was good enough to be bold enough, staged a wave of unscented dragons, his courage vanished on the spot. Without saying a word, he threw the broken suffering to the ground, turned and ran mercilessly. It's really you, Danzo. Kuwu tattoo dragon, how dare you? Quote. Tenu looked down at Danzo's back, and the look of a dragon's face was also a little subtle. Although Tenu already knew that the King of Pot had a similar record. In the future, the Pot King will also perform a wave of feats without thorns. But when he saw Danzo holding a small kunai, turning into a blue dragon, stabbing him, who is definitely the strongest creature in the world of sea, land, and air, he still couldn't help being the touching IQ of the King of Pot. Impressed. Looking at the entire ninja world, looking at the past, present, and future, Konoha Nabe King is the only one who can do such a stupid thing. Really, if you think you are stupid, remember that Konoha once had a Pot King, who was alone in nothing, trying to pierce Suzuo. No matter how stupid people are, just think about the King of Pots, and they can find confidence in their IQ. It's just a member of an organization in a small country, so I dare to look down on the old man. Quote. Danzo sensed that Tenu was disdainful of him, and his heart was suddenly furious. At the moment, he did not hesitate to speed up the pace of escape. The instant technique does not need to be used madly like money. I don't care about chakra who is passing quickly in my body. Humph. Tenu sensed that Danzo was heavily malicious towards him, and a pair of majestic dragon eyes flashed with murderous intent immediately. Although his observation haki cannot predict the future, it is okay to perceive the emotions of creatures. Danzo's evil intentions for himself can be clearly sensed hundreds of meters away. This wave has lost. The grace of the well-proclaimed spring will be reported by dripping water. But this time I actually reported 3 drops of water. Quote. Tenu sighed while opening the huge dragon mouth, exposing the cold glow of the dragon teeth. Immediately afterwards, the hot breath rolled out. Even Danzo, who had run a kilometer away, could feel an extremely high temperature coming from behind. That dragon doesn't mean to attack the old man a kilometer away, right? Just when Danzo had an idea that stunned him, a mouthful of dragon's breath that surpassed fire style and was even higher than lava style had spewed from Tenu's mouth. In an instant, a hot, majestic dragon's breath has crossed a distance of kilometers, directly blocking all Danzo's escape routes, and drowning Danzo, who jumped up and down, and even hundreds of meters around him. The rain floating in the air. A muddy land beaten by rain for many years. Trees everywhere are extremely humid. Under Tianyu's breath, they melted one after another. When Tianyu dissipated the dragon's breath across the sky, Yahiko, Konan, and Nagato standing on the hillside had discovered that the rainforest a kilometer away had disappeared. A breath of dragon, spanning thousands of meters, instantly turned a rainforest into nothing. Witnessing Tianyu's terrifying power that is not like a human being, the three of them gasped in shock. As for Danzo, they have selectively forgotten. This dragon's breath continued, covering a kilometer indiscriminately. Unless Danzo is similar to Flying Thunder God's time and space ninjutsu, there will be death and no life. Are you really Tianyu? Konan looked at Tianyu, who had once again transformed from the body of a green dragon back to a human being, and his beautiful face was no longer as cold as before. Replace it like a fake. Tianyu descended from the sky and floated in front of Konan. Is that a lie? How could Tianyu be able to fight like this? Quote. Nagato couldn't help muttering. Having lived together day and night for 10 years, he couldn't think that Tianyu, who had always been a stubborn person, was actually a super powerhouse who could kill even a ninja demigod in seconds. Look at what you said, I never seem to say I can't fight. Tianyu smiled. After signing for 10 years, he achieved 100% completion of the Kaido template. As he wished, he had the ability to kill a shadow with a stick. He felt that he could finally barely protect himself in the ninja world, but he was in a good mood. Otherwise, he wouldn't be grateful for the spring, and he would have repaid 3 drops of water. First he saved Konan and Yahiko, and then he rewarded Hanzo with a thunderous 8 trigrams, and the last bite overwhelmed the king of the pot. This is a serious violation of his purpose of being a man of the kindness of springs and dripping water. It seems to be too. Nagato heard this, although he always felt that Tianyu's words were a bit wrong, but he couldn't say what was wrong for a while. Great, Tianyu is so strong, who can bully us Xiao in the future? No, with Tianyu, no one dares to invade the country of rain. Quote. At this time, Konan finally accepted the fact that Tianyu was a super strong. Quote. Yahiko opened his mouth, as if to say something, but didn't know what he thought of, but in the end he didn't speak. Obviously, Hanzo's incident had a great impact on him. He, who has always advocated not using power, doubted for the first time whether his ideas were wrong. Tianyu, what should those ninjas do? Suddenly, Nagato pointed to Rain Shinobi and Konoha Anbu, who were unconscious on the hillside. All killed. Tianyu didn't even think about it. He signed for 10 years with Xiao organization, but it was not in vain. Although he has hardly ever touched anyone in the past 10 years, the 4 words of compassion and softness are long gone. Wait, Tianyu, forget those Anbus, but Rain Shinobi shouldn't have to kill it. After all, they are just taking orders from Hanzo. Quote. Yahiko couldn't help but persuade. Release them, and then let them continue to hold Konan. Tianyu didn't have a good air. It seems that Yahiko is still naive. Such a person is really not suitable for Xiao's leader. Yahiko was a little speechless when asked by Tianyu. But he is from the land of rain, strictly speaking Rain Shinobi. It's just not under Hanzo's control. Killing dozens of Rain Shinobi in front of him just like that, he was more or less unbearable. You think they won't die, but it's not impossible. Tianyu glanced at Yahiko, who was unbearable, and suddenly moved in his heart. Before, he felt that ninja was too dangerous. Even Nine Tails was judged by Senju Hashirama and Uzumaki Mito as the strongest tail beast with too much power. Since the Sengoku era, it has not been beaten, but sealed. For this reason, in the past 10 years, he has only dared to stay in the Xiao organization and strike time. For the 2 sign-in locations and the people who sign in at Akatsuki, he didn't dare to sign at that time. I'm afraid that if you stay away from the 3 of Nagato, Uchiha Obito wearing Madara's vest will jump out of the grass to give him a look. But now, after signing in for 10 years, he has signed the Kaido template to 100%. He who can beat a shadow with 1 punch is a bit self-preserving. The sign-in location and the sign-in staff can also be put on the agenda. Is there any way? Yahiko's eyes brightened. You go to be the shadow of Rain Shinobi village. Tianyu said lightly. This is not right. Hanzo is the shadow of Rain Shinobi village. Quote. In shock, Yahiko subconsciously refused. After I hammered him to death, it was no longer. Tianyu asked back. But it's nothing good. Hanzo is dead. Rain Shinobi Village is like a group of dragons without a leader. You don't want the 5 great ninja villages to take the opportunity to invade the country of Rain, do World War II and World War III again. Once the war breaks out, there will not be as few as the dozens of Rain Shinobi today. Quote. Tenu interrupted Yahiko directly. Will the people in the village convince me? Yahiko was a little moved. He himself grew up amidst the chaos of war, so naturally he didn't want to see the Kingdom of Rain being involved in the war again. For this reason, he founded the Akatsuki organization. You underestimate yourself, and you underestimate Akatsuki's prestige in the land of Rain. Hanzo is gone, Yu Yahiko is the best candidate for the leader of Rain Shinobi. Don't you want to change, to bring peace to the ninja world? Then start from Rain Shinobi Village, the country of Rain. Quote. Tenu said every word. Tenu is right, you are the best candidate for the leader of Rain Shinobi Village. Yahiko, you don't want more orphans like us in the land of Rain. Before Yahiko spoke, Konan and Nagato were already moved by Tenu. They are all convinced that with Yahiko's character, being the shadow of Rain Shinobi Village will definitely benefit this country. At least families and orphans in this country who have suffered due to the war will definitely be taken seriously. But, what if the people at Rain Shinobi Village don't convince me? Hanzo has been the leader for so many years, he must be very prestigious in Rain Shinobi Village, and he has cultivated a large number of cronies. They don't necessarily follow in my footsteps. Quote. Seeing Konan and Nagato both say so, Yahiko is even more heartwarming. He is not moved by the position of the leader of Rain Shinobi Village, but because he can bring changes to Rain Shinobi Village and the country of Rain. Especially after seeing Hanzo's dirty methods and despicable behavior, he is even more reluctant to have a second person like Hanzo to be the leader again in Rain Shinobi Village. It's not easy. As long as Rain Shinobi doesn't want to go with you, I will let them go with Hanzo. Quote. Tenu said without changing his face. Forehead. Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan couldn't help but glance at the remains of Hanzo. At this look, while the 3 of them were shocked, they couldn't help but tremble. Is this the true face of Tenu? Wei Go did it. Under the appearance of 10 years of dry food, there is such a terrible side. Okay, it's so finalized. In the afternoon, let's go to Rain Shinobi Village to fully settle your succession to Yuying. Quote. Tenu gave the final word directly and did not give Yahiko a chance to refute. Then what should Xiao do? If I have 2 jobs, I can't manage it. Quote. Yahiko gave a wry smile. Standing with Tenu, he always felt that the other party was the leader. Hey, isn't there a leader ready? Tenu heard the words and directly twisted Nagato over with one hand. Nagato. Yahiko and Nagato were shocked. Obviously, they didn't expect Tenu to make this decision. Nagato has Rinnegan, who is also one of the founders of Akatsuki. If he is not the leader of Akatsuki, who will do it? Don't you two make up exactly as a pair? You are in charge of Rain Shinobi, the main development. Nagato is in charge of Akatsuki, the master of force. 1 article and 1 military can defend the country and fulfill your childhood dreams. Quote. Tenu pointed at Nagato, who was suddenly arranged, with a face caught off guard. What about me? Konan saw that both Nagato and Yahiko had been arranged by Tenu, but he left himself and immediately asked. She is also one of the founders of Xiao, but she can't eat dry rice. If you are a rich woman, it would be nice to be in charge of Akatsuki and Rain Shinobi Village's finances. After all, whether Rain Shinobi Village or Akatsuki is organized, everything is inseparable from the word money in order to grow and develop. Quote. Tenu said without thinking. Akatsuki's first 10-year plan is inseparable from Konan's banknote capabilities. He signed for the first 10-year plan in Xiao, even more so that he could not do without Konan's great help. You seem to make a lot of sense. I will raise Akatsuki and Rain Shinobi Village. If you don't have money, just ask me for it. Quote. Konan smiled, then turned his head and said to Tenu. By the way, Tenu, this is your pocket money and salary today. Don't save it, just come and ask me after you spend it. I still have 100,000 detonating charms stored here. If it is not enough, I will work overtime tonight, and I should be able to get tens of thousands more. Quote. As she said, She took out 2 stacks of detonation charms from her pocket and handed them to Tenu. A rough calculation, 200. No way, the rich woman's confidence is so full. Quote. Tenu instinctively stretched out his hand, glanced at his eyes, calculated roughly in his heart, started with 200 sheets, and then skillfully put it in his pocket. After a set of actions, there is no trace to be found, like an antelope hanging horns. The stomach has not been bad for 10 or 8 years, it is absolutely impossible to practice such a familiar movement. It's not that he is not hard-hearted, he signed all Kaido templates to 100%, and he still needs to be supported. He simply has a bad stomach and has no other meaning. Tenu, I am the leader of Rain Shinobi Village. Nagato is the leader of the Akatsuki organization. Konan becomes the financial officer. How about you? You are so strong that even Hanzo can be beaten to death with one punch. What are your plans for the future? Quote. Seeing that Tenu arranged the 3 of them clearly, Yahiko couldn't help but ask Tenu. The world is so big, I want to see it. Tenu thought for a while, and then said. In the past, he only dared to organize the sign in time at Xiao Xiao, because the shinobi world was too dangerous. Even 9 tails will be beaten to the ground. Stronger than Uchiha Madara will be stabbed. How dare he go shopping? But it's different now. Being able to beat Hanzo to death with one punch, he felt that even if he was not as strong, he was also free from the label of a weak. At this time, if you don't go to the sign-in place, and the staff who don't sign in at Akatsuki, is it possible to continue to eat soft meals? He must admit that rich women are good, and soft rice is fragrant. It can be signed for 10 years before signing the Kaido template to 100% completion. He is no longer satisfied with this schedule. Everywhere in the ninja world, wild members of Akatsuki waved to him. You want to leave? Did I not give you enough money? Don't go, can't I add money to you? As long as you don't go, you can add as much as you want. Quote. Konan's face tightened. Come on, I'll give it to you. You are just like before, you don't have to do anything, just stay with me. Quote. While she was talking, she excitedly grabbed 2 stacks of detonating symbols from her pocket and brought them to Tenu's face. It's not a question of money. As Tenu spoke, his right hand received 2 stacks of detonation charms very skillfully. That's not enough. After Konan finished speaking, 2 more sets of detonating symbols passed. It's not enough. Tenu took it again. What's the problem? Konan opened the 2 scrolls, and a full 50 packs of brand new detonating charms were placed in front of Tenu. No problem. It's just that I need to explain. I definitely didn't leave it because of these detonating symbols, but Akatsuki needed me. Quote. Tenu repackaged 50 stacks of detonating symbols with a scroll, then inserted them into his pockets, and said righteously. It's really not that he has eaten too much soft food and can't be stiff in front of Konan. He was simply reluctant to part with Konan, and Akatsuki also needed him. Anyway, he can sign in at the same place as the Xiao organization, and can sign in the wild Akatsuki personnel as well. Yeah, I know you are definitely not the kind of man who buckles for money. Konan has a pretty face like a flower and agrees very much with Tenu's words. Quote. Yahiko and Nagato were speechless. No matter where they look from, Tenu is a person who is bent over money. But for Konan to be able to keep Tenu, they are also very happy from the bottom of their hearts. Not because of Tenu's strength, but because of the fetters formed by getting along for 10 years. In Hanzo's burial place, a black and white figure emerged from the ground like a ghost. Madara, your plan failed. Yahiko is not dead. With him, Nagato would never agree with our thoughts. Quote. Black Zetsu's tone was a little gloomy. Obviously, he is in a bad mood. Whether it is the Eye of the Moon or the resurrection of Uchiha Madara, Nagato is an indispensable candidate. Not once, then twice. I don't believe he can be so lucky every time. Quote. As soon as Black Zetsu's voice fell, the space beside him was suddenly distorted. Immediately afterwards, Uchiha Obito appeared in Uchiha Madara vest. That was before. Now that Tenu, a monster that can kill Hanzo with one blow, is there, Xiao can no longer let you rub and squash like in the past. After all, it is not easy for you to defeat Hanzo, let alone smash him to death on the spot with a single blow. Quote. The more Black Zetsu speaks, the more he gets angry. At the same time, he was puzzled. How come a dragon suddenly appeared in the Shao organization? It's not that dragons have never existed in the ninja world, but they have basically become extinct. What about the dragon? Without the blood of Senju and Uchiha, he wouldn't be a threat at all. What's more, he is alone, can he still guard Yahiko every step of the way? Quote. Uchiha Obito's voice was full of disdain. Dragon. In front of his Uchiha Obito's Sharingan, it was just a stronger crawler. Without the blood of Senju and Uchiha, there is nothing to worry about. That's right, the person wearing the Uchiha Madara vest is so tough. What if that dragon really did that? White Zetsu, who is mentally retarded so that even Danzo can find confidence in him, raised the bar. It's not Yahiko that makes Nagato sink. Don't forget the woman Konan. Compared to Yahiko, don't you think she is more suitable? You said she died in the hands of the Konoha shinobi, how about this script? Quote. Uchiha Obito made a chilling proposal with a smile. If this is the case, then it is not Nagato who sinks first, but the dragon. Hearing this, Black-White Zetsu's eyes brightened at the same time. Buy one get one free, let two strong people agree with their will in one go. Konan's death benefit is much higher than Yahiko's death. The script is good. Arrange the four of us clearly. Quote. Just when Uchiha Obito was proud of his plan, a huge dragon shadow fell from the sky and reflected on the three of them. Uchiha Obito looked up suddenly. A blue dragon that was hundreds of meters long instantly reflected in his Sharingan, which was full of horror. When did we expose it? Black Zetsu's face grew darker. Madara, didn't he listen to all our plans just now? White Zetsu's heart tightened. Almost frightened to leave Black Zetsu, he dived into the ground. He is not Uchiha Obito. Facing Tenu who could kill Hanzo with a single blow, spanning 1,000 meters with a mouthful of heat and overpowering the Pot King, he was not afraid of it. Have you heard it all? Uchiha Obito looked up at Tenu, and the scarlet Sharingan bloomed with a touch of fear. He also wanted to arrange for Konan to come. As a result, the action didn't even start, and the script was heard by the master. This time it was really stealing the chicken and losing the rice. Hanzo is despicable enough. I really didn't expect that you guys together are not as despicable as him alone. Quote. Tenu occupies the void, and the huge dragon eyes burst out with terrifying cold light. Uchiha Obito in a different space, he didn't perceive it. However, the breath of Black-White Zetsu, under his observation haki, is almost the same as two big light bulbs. I pretended to leave just now, but I took the opportunity to let the Konan trio go ahead and prevent the Konan trio from being caught by the eager Uchiha Obito. Now Konan has gone far away, and he has nothing to worry about. Go. Without saying a word, Uchiha Obito played Kamui directly on Black Zetsu and White Zetsu, trying to involve them in a different space. Now that it has been exposed, what will happen next, he can use his toes to think about it. Being stared at by an angry blue dragon, although he was not afraid, he didn't want to either. Retreat is the best choice at this time. After all, he is only wearing the Dance King's vest, and he is not the Madara who really wants to dance when he sees the strong. Aren't you Uchiha Madara? Why do you want to run when you see me? Quote. A trace of disdain flashed across Tenu's face, and then his dragon eyes full of sorrowful colors shrank suddenly. Boom! Shocking purple lightning flashed from the dim sky in an instant. The huge tornado brought up countless rainwater and turned into a waterspout into the sky. The doomsday-like natural disasters came within his thoughts. I'm Uchiha, I'm afraid you won't make it. Sharingan of Uchiha Obito has a murderous intent. In the face of the tornado that swept through in the flash of lightning, he could only stop Kamui, turn his head and spit up in the sky, and at the same time his hands were imprinted like lightning. Fire-style flurry. The surrounding space was instantly twisted, and then the flames gushing from his mouth turned into a serpentine snake under the influence of the space distortion and bit on the waterspout. Puff. Hiss. What made Uchiha Obito's heart sank was that after his fire style encountered the waterspout, it was immediately submerged. What kind of Uchiha Madara are you? Such a weak Madara, it's the first time I have seen you. Quote. A touch of sarcasm appeared in Tenu's dragon eyes. Without waiting for Uchiha Obito's rebuttal, the majestic tide, mixed with the mighty and powerful conqueror's haki's sanctions, was crushed down. What? White Zetsu rolled his eyes, foamed at the mouth, and fainted neatly. Although Black Zetsu's face was sinking and breathing quickly, as Otsutsuki Kagaya's will, although he did not inherit the power of Kagaya, he withstood the shock of Conqueror's Haki of Tenu. He didn't faint under the impact of waves of Conqueror's Haki-like waves. What kind of power is this? Can something like momentum attack the spirit? Quote. Uchiha Obito's brain went blank. Even if he possessed Mangekyo Sharingan, he lost consciousness for a while when faced with the crazy impact of Tenu's four Emperors-level Conqueror's Haki. Uchiha Madara. Tenu stretched out his right paw, peeked down, grabbed it. When Uchiha Obito woke up from the absent-mindedness, he found that he had fallen into Tenu's dragon claws. Seeing his situation, Uchiha Obito's pupils shrank to the size of a pinhole. He just wanted to use Kamui to make his body hollow, but his overwhelming grip has exploded from the dragon's claws. Puff! Before his body was hollow, he was squeezed into a ball of blood. Trouble. Seeing this scene, Black Zetsu immediately wanted to dive underground. However, he hadn't started to act yet, and Tenu's vision that swept across the mighty long way had been fixed on him. Since you and Madara who don't know what kind of breed are in the same group, go with him. A group of people just want to be neat and tidy. Quote. Tenu dived down. Under a dazzling purple light, he had changed from a blue dragon back to a human, and fell in front of Black Zetsu. If I tell you now, I don't know that Madara very well, do you think you can accept it? A drop of sweat the size of a grain of rice appeared on Black Zetsu's forehead. Boom. The answer to him was indeed Tenu's punch that compressed all the air and then exploded. Want to kill me? It's not so easy. 1 second, Black Zetsu was shocked in a cold sweat. The next second, when facing Tenu's fist, he did not retreat but instead moved forward. I saw him bullshit and bumped into Tenu's fist. Call out. When his body touched Tenu's fist, he was not blown out by a punch like Hanzo. On the contrary, it turned into a black liquid and directly merged into Tenu's body. Tenu frowned, and the movement of punching suddenly froze. Madara. Black Zetsu, who controlled Tenu, immediately screamed. The juniors now are really arrogant. If it weren't for the battle between me and Hashirama, the injuries I suffered have not healed until now. Killing you this level of stuff would be enough for me. Quote. Uchiha Obito, who was pinched into blood just now, floated out strangely from the ground behind Tenu. I saw that he tried his best to maintain his ruined Uchiha Madara to the very little left, and then squeezed kunai with his right hand and poke at the back of Tenu's heart. Suffering ended without answer. Quote. Uchiha Obito was silent. Come on. King Dance's force that had just rescued a little bit was gone immediately. Quote. Black Zetsu was also silent. He felt that he could hardly hold Madara's coffin to cover it. I always thought of a wizard like Danzo, and throughout my life, I can only meet one at most. But I never thought that an ordinary ninja world would be able to train you two Wolong and Phoenix Young at the same time. Quote. With a scream of horror from Black Zetsu, Tenu slowly turned around and looked at Uchiha Obito, who was holding a half kunwu in a joke. Kuwu no tattooed dragon. This kind of stupid thing unexpectedly was met by two people in one day. Even he had to say something to Uchiha Obito in his heart. How dare you? He didn't even need armament haki to attack this kind of attack, and he could take it without damage with pure physical strength. You can still move. Black Zetsu attached to Tenu's body was full of horror. This is the first time for him. This is the only strength Kagaya-ji left him. To the effect, the dance king who did not flash also hated Jukwon. Why not? How can my body be controlled by a mouse in a ditch like you? Quote. Tenu sneered, then his body shook. Shocking purple lightning bursts from all around him. In the next second, the Black Zetsu attached to his body screamed and flew out. After breaking more than 10 big trees, the whole person was limp on the ground like a puddle of mud. Who is Kaido? One of the 4 emperors. The Sea Emperor with the will of the king. Strong spirit and will rank on top of the world. Apart from the red-haired Shanks who is also one of the 4 emperors, who can dominate Kaido on the king's will. Not to mention, Kaido's physical strength is unmatched by Grand Line. Tough will, strong physique. Tenu, who is 100% integrated with Kaido template, inherits everything from Kaido perfectly. This is how Black Zetsu can operate. Fix one end, the next one will come to you. After smoothing Black Zetsu in an understatement, Tenu exuded an astonishing dragon scorpion at that moment, and refixed on Uchiha Obito. This look made Uchiha Obito, who had not been ashamed to say that Tenu did not have the blood of Uchiha and Senju, and could not become a threat, felt a shudder. Being stared at by a dragon, is that what it feels like? Suddenly a thought came to Uchiha Obito. The living Uchiha Madara is nothing more than that. As soon as this thought came out, he couldn't help but startled. Immediately, he shook his head sharply. Impossible. How can an ordinary person who has no blood of Senju or Uchiha be comparable to Uchiha Madara? Aren't you calling yourself Uchiha Madara? How? Have the courage to call yourself Madara, but dare not even do it. Quote. Tenu walked towards Uchiha Obito without rush. With every step he took, a wave of majestic conqueror's haki hit Uchiha Obito's mind once. When he walked in front of Uchiha Obito, stopped, and looked down at him condescendingly, the so-called Madara began to tremble slightly. Hehe, I didn't expect that I would be looked down upon by juniors. I advise you not to be too rampant. Even if the injury that Hashirama brought to me is still not healed, I can still do it for you as a junior. Quote. Uchiha Obito opened the Scarlet Mangekyo Sharingan, and stared at Tenu savagely. In the next second, Kamui launches. The space Tenu was in was suddenly distorted. However, Tenu did not tell the prophet. Before the space was twisted into a whirlpool, others had disappeared in place, appearing behind Uchiha Obito as if teleporting. Thunder 8 trigrams. With a sharp shout, Uchiha Obito was so scared that Uchiha Obito immediately removed Kamui and decisively hollowed his body. Boom. Using a fist instead of a mace, Tenu, who used the thunderous 8 trigrams, instantly passed through Uchiha Obito's body with his fist, and hit the ground fiercely. Guru. In the hollow state, Uchiha Obito glanced at the Buddha at his feet, as if it had been hit by a meteorite, and collapsed into a ground with a radius of several hundred meters deep pit. Although he was so shocked that he swallowed his saliva, he still tried to break Uchiha Madara's branch. The force of the grid is sticky. Don't waste your effort. The power of Sharingan is not what you can please you. All the proud abilities you have, in front of my eyes, everything becomes meaningless. Quote. Uchiha Obito said pretentiously while maintaining hollow. Yes, Tenu smiled without anger, reached out and picked up a mace left by Rain Shinobi on the ground. As he clenched his 5 fingers, the purple electricity that was visible to the naked eye burst out, surrounding the mace like a snake. Junior, you don't think you can deal with my Sharingan just by picking up a weapon. Don't be naive. The gap between you and me cannot be made up even if you are given an artifact. Quote. Uchiha Obito put his hand on his back, and a full of scowling voice floated from under his mask. Thunder 8 trigrams. Tenu stomped the ground with his right foot and rushed forward without saying a word, just as the 8 trigrams thundered over. Still in vain. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, such physical skills must be very burdensome for you. Quote. Uchiha Obito sneered. But soon, he couldn't laugh anymore. Thunder 8 trigrams. Thunder 8 trigrams. Thunder 8 trigrams. Under the gaze of his gradual collapse, Tenu is like a perpetual motion machine, twisting a mace in one hand to him is a thundering 8 trigrams. No matter where he goes, where Tenu is chasing with his mace. Bang bang bang. Is this fool never ending? Is it possible that thunderous 8 trigrams, such a powerful physical skill, is just a normal attack for him? Quote. Looking at Tenu, who just pulled the stick when he didn't agree, and thundered at himself for 3 minutes, the face under Uchiha Obito's mask gradually turned green. No matter how dull he was, he understood. This thunderous 8 trigrams is not a big move at all, but it is Tenu's Blue Dragon's flat a skill. By the way, he just put a wave of force in front of Tenu. Whether it is to defend Uchiha Madara's ruined force, or to save his life, he can only hold hollow with a smile on his face and welcome Tenu's torrential wind like flat a combo. At the same time, I still don't forget the crazy slapstick. But as time passed, Tenu was still there thundering. After 8 trigrams, the smile on the corner of his mouth became more and more rigid. Could he see through my Mangekyo Sharingan's pupil technique? Drops of cold sweat began to appear on Uchiha Obito's forehead. Because the 5-minute hollow time is approaching. On the contrary, Tenu is still doing his own way, regardless of what he says and what he does. It is just that he will force him to be strong. Thunder is blowing the hills, he will be arrogant, and the 8 trigrams will illuminate the river. In the face of Tenu's crazy style of play and endless horror physical ability, he has no hope of using hollow to kill the opponent. Judging from Tenu's current performance, he estimated that the dragon in front of him could thunder completely. 8 trigrams himself for 3 days and 3 nights. Is it possible to use Izanagi to escape again? Uchiha Obito was struggling constantly. He was pinched to death by Tenu's dragon claw just now. He has already used Izanagi once. Now he only has one Mangekyo Sharingan left. If I were to use Izanagi again, his Mangekyo Sharingan would lose its light forever. On one side is death, on the other side is lost Mangekyo Sharingan. No matter how you choose, it will be painful. However, the time left for him is running out. Because hollow is 5 minutes, it's time. Izanagi. Once the hollow was over, watching the mace falling from the sky, Uchiha Obito roared in his heart and chose to lose Mangekyo Sharingan. Mangekyo Sharingan is gone, you can dig Kakashi. Anyway, those are my own eyes. But the fate is gone, then there is nothing. Although it's good to see Yi Yuanlin, he didn't want to meet Yi Yuanlin with this kind of useless method of death. Armed Thunder 8 trigrams. Tenu's eyes flashed red, and armament hockey surged out of his body, as large as the ocean of Wongyang, and dyed the mace that he swung toward Uchiha Obito with a black light. Looking at it, it looks like it is coated with a layer of black metal. The changes between the electric light and the flint cast a huge shadow in Uchiha Obito's heart. Chapter 11. What is this? Uchiha Obito looked at the mace, 1 meter away from him, and his pupils shrank suddenly. His Mangekyo Sharingan, who was full of horror, clearly saw Kaido's mace flying out of a horrible energy that was different from chakra. With a bang, his Izanagi hasn't been displayed yet, and people have been hit by the terrifying energy of the raging sea. The majestic and tidal wave of shock immediately smashed the ground thousands of meters under his feet. Centering on the place where Tenu's feet were trampled on, a series of giant python-like cracks crisscrossed out. Like the shocking weather wave caused by a missile explosion, it rose up into the sky wrapped in huge dust, gravel, and broken wood, and swayed violently in all directions. The heavy rain clouds that have been entrenched in the country of rain for many years are scattered. In the sky, there is a huge crack that makes people scared at first sight. One shot entangled armament hockey's flat a technique, Thunder 8 trigrams. It pierced the sky, the earth, and even the atmosphere of the country of rain. And Uchiha Obito, wearing the Uchiha Madara vest, was lying sideways with a tattered piece of cloth in the center of a deep crater where the Buddha was hit by a meteorite several thousand meters away. The mask on the face, the clothes on the body, the half of the body, and the force left to him by Uchiha Madara. In front of the armament hockey who was released by Tenu, they were all broken to the ground. What do you say is your name, Madara? Above the void, Tenu generates clouds step by step, stepping down in the void. He looked down at Uchiha Obito, who had shattered the mask. Even half of his head and body were shattered, leaving only Uchiha Obito, who was lingering on the ground with one breath. It took 5 minutes to hit one of Naruto's 3 big behind-the-scenes BOSS's almost corpse on the spot. His eyes and tone were not at all arrogant, or proud. On the contrary, it is like a Wang Gujing cold pond, deep and calm. For him, letting the Buddha out is just a sparse and ordinary, even trivial thing, to beat a behind-the-scenes boss like Uchiha Obito to half a breath. Quote. With the powerful vitality brought by Hashirama cells, Uchiha Obito struggled to open the bloodshot Mangekyo Sharingan. When he looked at Tenu, the only eye could not help flashing a trace of horror. Such a monster was unheard of. I thought of wearing Uchiha Madara's vest before, and joking in front of Black Zetsu that this dragon does not have the blood of Uchiha and Senju, and is not a climate at all. Thinking about being crushed by Tenu with a mace, he couldn't take care of himself, and he couldn't help feeling a strong shame. Do you still want to be Uchiha Madara? Tenu looked down on the remaining half of Uchiha Obito's cheek blankly. He is 100% integrated with the Kaido template. Whether it is helping people to quit the king addiction or helping people to quit the Madara addiction, he is expert in this matter. It just so happened that although no one in the ninja world Tenten clamored to be the One Piece, there was a Tenten who told people that he was Uchiha Madara. Quote. With the powerful insight of Mangekyo Sharingan, he captured the fleeting cold light of Tenu's dragon eyes. Lying in the deep pit, Uchiha Obito, with only one breath left, found that a surge of power came from his body, supporting him to shake his head madly at Tenu. The mask is broken, so what Madara? After suffering this beating and realizing that he claimed that Uchiha Madara was about to be beaten, he already vowed in his heart that he would never call himself Madara again in his life. Very good. Tenu smiled happily. Sure enough, to quit Madara addiction, he is a professional. Uchiha Obito, who wandered around in Uchiha Madara's vest, only met him once, and Madara's addiction disappeared immediately. Thinking of this, he twisted his mace and flattened his skill. Thunder 8 trigrams hit Uchiha Madara Obito, who was only half of his face. And many more. Uchiha Obito's pale paper face showed a trace of horror, and the only remaining arm was immediately raised, trying to stop Tenu. His response was still the thunder of purple lightning, 8 trigrams. Just when Uchiha Obito was about to repay Mangekyo Sharingan with the pain, when his Tenu's mace was only 1 centimeter away from his front door, he suddenly stopped. Why are you here, Nagato? Tenu casually threw the mace to the side, turned his head and looked at Nagato, who had used the Shushin technique and ran from behind. Obviously, it was not Uchiha Obito who stopped him. It's Nagato. For Uchiha Obito, his only interest is to help him get rid of Madara addiction. After quitting, he didn't even want to hear a beep. It's different if the person who spoke is Nagato. In the 10 years since Akatsuki signed in, Yahiko took him in, Konan took care of him, and Nagato protected him. Ninja world, he doesn't have any sense of belonging. Even at the beginning of the journey, Konoha, who once made him think about it, was later regarded by him as a mustache. The only thing that can give him a sense of belonging is the Akatsuki who has signed in for 10 years. The only thing that can give him a bond is Yahiko, Nagato and Konan. I have been thinking about some things for a long time, but I have been unable to figure it out. This person may be able to help me find the answer. Quote. Nagato walked to Tenu and slowly raised his eyes. Purple pupils, circles of ripples. Even if you simply stare at each other, you can feel the terrible pupil power in the vastness of these eyes. Facing Nagato's sudden appearance of Rinnegan, not only did Uchiha Obito surprise Uchiha Obito, even Tenu looked unexpected. Rinnegan's pupil power awakened. When did it happen? Quote. Tenu's eyes condensed slightly. Rinnegan. Originally, he thought that without Yahiko's death, Nagato would not be able to awaken the pupil power of these eyes. Even if it is still awakening, it will not be known how long it will be. Unexpectedly, Nagato, who was back on his way, came to see him with a pair of fully awakened Rinnegan. If the two big bosses behind the scenes of ninja at this stage, Black Zetsu and Uchiha Obito, were beaten to the ground and screamed, he couldn't help but suspect that the boss behind the scenes was arranging Nagato. It didn't take long, just after you left, but the more accurate time should be when Hanzo seized Konan to blackmail us. Quote. Nagato thought about it seriously. Coincidence, or fate? Tenu stared at Nagato's Rinnegan, his face was a bit cloudy. He knew that the ninja world had fate and reincarnation. But if this is the case, will Nagato still follow the old path? Should I bury Black Zetsu and Uchiha Obito and then dig the grave of Uchiha Malata? Tenu, what's wrong with you? Nagato saw that Tenu's expression was a bit ugly, and he couldn't help but feel a little suspicious. Nothing. Tenu pondered for a long time, before taking a breath. If the ninja world really has fate, then come. Whether it is fate, there is a bigger hand behind it. Whoever dares to reach out to Nagato, Konan and the others, dare to play with their destiny, I will chop you off. Quote. A flash of red light burst out of the dragon's eyes. The mighty horror conqueror's haki is like an open gate torrent, wave after wave surging out of Tenu. Boom. Under his boundless will to defeat the king's fate, the sky that was torn apart by him not long ago and finally healed again was shocked and split again. Tenu, where are you holy? Is the dragon really that strong? This terrifying conqueror's haki, a terrifying vision of the world, whether it is Nagato who started Rinnegan or Uchiha Obito who likes to call himself Mulata feels strong heart palpitations. Looking close at hand, Tenu who was full of awe-inspiring haki all over his body, both of them came up with an idea at the same time. If there is a god in this world, and this god blocks Tenu's words, then the dragon in front of me is afraid that even a god would dare to slaughter it. Want to know what? Just ask. What do you want to do? Just do it. Quote. After thinking about it, Tenu felt that his thoughts were extremely accessible, but at the same time he dispelled the idea of preventing Nagato and Uchiha Obito from contacting. What has become of Ninja World? Will the 5 powers disappear? He doesn't care about all this. As long as he can sign in well and Nagato and others can do what they want, that's enough. As for this matter to the ninja world, to the world, is it right? Is it wrong? Is good? Is it bad? He doesn't care at all. Of course, the premise is Nagato's own pursuit. Instead of being manipulated to death like a puppet in his life as he remembered. Want to be behind the scenes. Want to be the boss behind the scenes. I'm lame for you. Uchiha Obito, Black Zetsu, these so-called behind-the-scenes boss, if they dare to cripple Nagato like before, there will only be one end. All crushed by him. It is good. Although Nagato didn't know why Tenu said this to him suddenly, he could still feel Tenu's concern for him. Thinking of this, his pair of Rinnegan exuding suffocating pressure flashed warmly. Just ask. Tenu glanced at Uchiha Obito, who was lying motionless in the pit and was beaten by him like a dead dog. Behind Hanzo and Danzo, you are planning it. Nagato walked to Uchiha Obito, opened Rinnegan, and looked down at Uchiha Obito like a god. Yes, Uchiha Obito opened his mouth, trying to escape. But when he saw Tenu on the side looking at his gaze as if looking at a dead person, he immediately took away the magical power of his mouth. Why do you do this? Nagato heard the words, and the cold and murderous moments burst out of Rinnegan. However, in the end he was suppressed. Because of Rinnegan. You have the eyes of God, but you don't know the will of God. You can't bear these eyes at all. Only by feeling pain, experiencing pain, accepting pain, and thinking about pain, can you know what peace is. If you haven't felt pain, you can't bring permanent peace to the shinobi world. Quote. Uchiha Obito didn't notice, the eyes of Tenu who watched him gradually became strange. How many floors are carried by a bag of rice? Isn't this script Nagato's? Could it be that I was flattened by the A technique? Thunder 8 trigrams made Uchiha Obito feel the pain, so I picked up Nagato's script. Can Rinnegan bring permanent peace to the ninja world? When Nagato heard Uchiha Obito say this, his body and mind were shaken. Peace. It has always been the pursuit of him, Yahiko and Konan. Let alone permanent peace. Why not? You don't know how much energy is in your eyes. Once activated, it can definitely bring permanent peace to the shinobi world. Quote. Uchiha Obito said surely. Tell me, what can I do to activate these eyes? What can we do to bring permanent peace to the ninja world? Quote. Nagato's tone was a little quick. No problem. I do so much for this purpose. What is it to be beaten half to death? It is my honor to witness the infinite potential of your eyes being activated. Quote. Uchiha Obito is more excited than Nagato. Can he not get excited? Didn't you see Tenu on the side already picked up the mace thrown on the ground again? If you can't fudge, no, you can't give Nagato a satisfactory answer, tell Nagato to move, and he promises that he will be hammered to death by Tenu. Quote. Quote. Tenu looked at Nagato and then at Uchiha Obito. Is this stick now knocked or not? After thinking about it, he decided to watch it for a while. Anyway, this Uchiha Obito is the fish on the chopping board. Under his observation Haki's perception, he can't run away. And he knows how attractive eternal peace is to Nagato. The past 3 ninja wars have proved Hashirama's method to be wrong. It is impossible for people to obtain peace by relying on mutual understanding. Only by letting mankind feel the pain of war and fear this pain can the occurrence of war be restrained. To do this, you must use Rinnegan to summon the Ghetto statue, collect the 9 tail beasts, seal them in the Ghetto statue, and create a tail beast weapon that can destroy the entire country in one blow. Quote. Uchiha Obito glanced at the mace hanging on top of his head, which was crumbling and would fall down at any time. For fear that Tenu would become impatient, there would be another thunderous 8 trigrams, and he quickly finished his plan in one breath. Ghetto statue. Tailed beast weapon. So that's it, this is the power and meaning of Rinnegan. Quote. Nagato murmured, a strong touch arose in his heart. Yes, this is the meaning of Rinnegan's existence. It is also the reason God gave you Rinnegan. Quote. Uchiha Obito felt relieved when he saw that Nagato was moved by him. Speaking of Nagato, as long as he needs himself, he can not only survive from Tenu, but also control Nagato in another way. Thank you for telling me these things. I will consider all this carefully. Quote. After Nagato finished speaking, before Uchiha Obito could speak, he turned his head and said to Tenu. Tenu, I have nothing to ask. You can do it, but Mr. Madara told me so much, please let Mr. Madara go more peacefully. Quote. As soon as the voice fell, he ignored Uchiha Obito's horrified and angry eyes and went straight to the side. His change made Tenu both surprised and gratified. But Uchiha Obito didn't look at it that way. Nagato, you can't do this. Only I know all this. You can better help you complete the tail beast weapon by keeping me, so that a permanent peace can be reached. Quote. Uchiha Obito's face changed suddenly. He didn't expect Nagato to be so cruel. White-horned his tail beast weapon plan, but even wanted to kill him. Fortunately, he did not reveal Project Tsuki no Mi, otherwise, this wave is really a big loss. No, Akatsuki has Tenu, me, Konan, and Yahiko. Even if it is not enough, I can hire people. More you are not more, less you are not more. Quote. Nagato turned his back to Uchiha Obito and said without looking back. You almost killed Konan and Yahiko. If it weren't for Tenu, I think they have been manipulated by you and died tragically under the butchers of Hanzo and Danzo. You wouldn't think that I would be so naive after hearing about your plan for a tail beast weapon, just erase the previous thing like a chalk, and leave you behind the scenes who almost killed Konan and Yahiko, right? Please Tenu to let you go more peacefully, I have already given you this gift because of what you said just now is indeed a little enlightening to me. Quote. His solemn, cold voice stunned Uchiha Obito. This Nagato, who was as indifferent as a high god, saw himself as a musty, and ruled his life and death in a word, made him feel very unfamiliar. He has been monitoring Nagato for years. I never remember that Nagato was such a cruel and decisive person. It seems that the demigods and the Pot King's actions are not all bad things. Not only did Nagato awaken Rinnegan, but he also grew up. Quote. The corner of Tenu's mouth raised slightly. He knew that all changes in Nagato were inseparable from Hanzo's threat. Yahiko didn't die. Although Nagato's temperament would not change drastically, Konan was held hostage, and the incident that almost caused siblings gave him a lesson. Coupled with Rinnegan's awakening, it was enough to make him lose all his innocence and childishness overnight. After replacing the previous Nagato, it is estimated that Uchiha Obito has been crippled by Uchiha Obito. Tenu, you can send Mr. Madara on the road. Nagato turned his eyes slightly, glanced at Uchiha Obito, and then withdrew his gaze. Nagato, what else Uchiha Obito wants to say, Tenu has already flattened his skill. Thunder 8 trigrams swept it over, smashing his half-remaining broken body to pieces. You're grown up, Nagato. Tenu threw the mace aside again. This weapon is too small and not strong enough, and he doesn't use it smoothly. Especially when performing the leveling a technique, it is better to use your hands to perform it more smoothly. Not to mention the Kaido's exclusive weapon that he left at home, the mace. You are already ahead of us. I can't keep on standing still. In that case, I can't even see your back, let alone protect you like before. Quote. Nagato turned around. The awakened Rinnegan still exuded awe-inspiring oppression, but his tone was full of ridicule. Then you have to work harder. It's just this level, it really doesn't necessarily protect me. Quote. Tenu smiled. After signing in for 10 years, he is no longer the man with a bad stomach. Konan wants to support him, and Nagato wants to protect him. It takes all the effort to do it. What's more, he glanced at the remains of Uchiha Obito and said silently. System, sign in Uchiha Obito and Black-White Zetsu. Successfully signed into Uchiha Obito. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the 4 Emperors template, Whitebeard 0% completion. Successfully signed the Black-White Zetsu. Congratulations to the host for winning the supreme knife, Kong Yunchi. Hearing the sound of the system, Tenu was slightly moved. Besides Kaido, can you get other 4 emperors' templates? Should I say that Uchiha Obito deserves to be the third behind-the-scenes boss of 6 doctrines? Signing you in, actually got me Whitebeard's template. Black and white Zetsu is not bad too, and sent me a great sharp knife. Quote. Tenu let out a sigh of relief lightly. 10 years ago, the first time he signed in for Akatsuki members was with Nagato and Konan. As for Yahiko, although he is Akatsuki's current leader, he is not a member of the Akatsuki mission, so he cannot sign in. But even just signing into Nagato and Konan, he still benefited a lot. Signed to Nagato, he got the template of 4 Emperors Kaido from the system. Signing to Konan, he obtained Kaido's exclusive weapon, mace from the system. After that, he signed in at Shao Organization for 10 years, and signed Kaido's completion degree to 100% abruptly. As for Kaido's mace, it's not too big to use. Not to mention that the system is very considerate. When the mace was sent to him, the mace was adjusted to a model that can be used by him. Even if the system did not do this, he could still hold Kaido in the form of an adult dragon. Exclusive weapons. It's just that he thinks Kaido's weapons are a bit ugly. Taking them out to meet people will seriously affect their personal compulsion. Except for the occasional use of Thundering 8 trigrams, the mace provided by the system is basically lying in the scroll for many years. But this supreme knife, Kong Yun cut it. Good. This weapon is not only non-destructive and compelling, it can also play a role in increasing and compelling the frame. Quote. When Tenu's heart moved, when his right hand opened, the model of a handle was adjusted by the system, and Kong Yunchi, which looked like a blue dragon and a moon knife, had fallen into the palm of his hand. As the Qinglong, isn't it reasonable for him to cut the cloud with the shape of a Qinglong Yanyu knife? After playing with Kongyun for a while, he felt compelled, and after using it so smoothly, he opened the system panel again. Host. Tenu. Sign in time, 10 years. Sign in location. Rain Shinobi Village, Rain Shinobi Village. Sign in at Akatsuki. Nagato, Konan, Uchiha Obito, Black White Zetsu. Character template. 4 Emperors Whitebeard, 0% completion. Devil Fruit. Shock Fruit not activated. Hockey. Armament Hockey inactive. Observation Hockey inactive. Conquerors Hockey inactive. Sure enough, in addition to the original Kaido template, there was also a Whitebeard template. It's just that Kaido has a 100% completion rate compared to Kaido, but Whitebeard's completion rate is 0%. Both Shock Fruit and Conqueror's Hockey are in an inactive state. What's the matter? Tenu. Nagato saw that Tenu suddenly took out a long-handled knife, and then fell silent again without a word. Nothing. Tenu shook his head, and then sealed Kong Yunchi back into the scroll. Even if the model is adjusted by the system, it is still a bit inconvenient to carry. Let's go, I'll have someone build a knife sleeve for you when I go back. In this way, you don't need to seal this weapon in the scroll when you don't use it. With your height, you can bear it. Quote. Although it was just a quick glance, Nagato also saw that Kong Yunchi was definitely a rare and famous knife. At least, he had never seen a better knife than Kong Yun. Also, Tenu nodded, but did not leave with Nagato, but stood still. Isn't this Madara dead already? Is there anything wrong? Quote. Seeing this, Nagato couldn't help asking. Uchiha has a forbidden technique called Izanagi. Tenu spoke out the ability of Yiksaneki's pupil technique. Hiss, even death can be modified. No wonder this Uchiha Madara can survive to this day. Quote. Nagato didn't rush away when he heard it. Anyway, Hanzo has returned to the west, Rain Shinobi Village has no one who can threaten them. It's not too late to help Yahiko ascend to the position of Rain Shinobi Village leader. The two of them waited for a long time. But Uchiha Obito's remains were still lying quietly in the pit. Not to mention the resurrection, there was not even the slightest movement. It's been so long. Maybe he really died. After waiting for another half an hour, Nagato finally couldn't help but said. Tenu doesn't know much about Izanagi. After all, Kishimoto told him all the information about Izanagi. The ghost knows if Kishimoto has concealed it. After all, the one named Kishimoto is a manga artist who knows hammer ninjutsu. So he has been driving observation hockey, but neither Black Zetsu's body nor Uchiha Obito's body has changed at all. The breath is still the same as the dead. Fire-style great fireball technique. Nagato thought for a while, and opened his mouth to spray a great fireball at the bodies of Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu. In a moment, the bodies of the two were burned to ashes. After waiting for a long time, the body was gone. He should be dead. Quote, after Nagato burned the bodies of Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu, he was relieved. If none of this is dead, it's fine. If you really encounter it again in the future, it will be killed again. Quote, Tenu didn't change his face, and wrote lightly. The people who signed up for the 2-4 Emperor's templates are so arrogant. Even if Whitebeard's template is currently only 0% complete, it still does not affect his arrogance. 2. In this regard, Nagato deeply agrees. Not to mention Tenu, this blue dragon, just himself, after awakening Rinnegan, he also has absolute confidence to press Mr. Madara to the ground. After reaching a consensus, neither of them stayed here long. One Tengen controlled, the other used the instant technique, chasing in the direction where Konan and Yahiko had left. As the two left, the pitted, seemingly messy battlefield left only two scorched and dark objects, quietly immersed in the rain. I don't know how long it has been before, a figure suddenly appeared. He walked up to the scorched Uchiha Obito, looked at it gloomily for a while, and a slightly regretful murmur slowly sounded. The teacher is right. People in Uchiha are all inherently evil, they all deserve to die. Not only caused the old man to waste his mirror's eyes in vain, but he even died without leaving a Mangekyo Sharingan to the old man. Such eyes, used to bury you, is simply the worst waste. Mangekyo Sharingan's blood can only play its greatest value when it falls into the hands of the old man. Quote, Danzo stared at Uchiha Obito's corpse and found that, not to mention the eyes, even after he had no complete body tissues, he couldn't help but grin. Teacher Tobirama does not deceive me. Uchiha, sure enough, whenever you meet Uchiha, it doesn't matter whether this Uchiha is alive or dead, the last sentence is absolutely correct. Oh, unexpectedly, Mr. Danzo, you really love Mangekyo Sharingan so much. Quote, just when Danzo cursed Uchiha, who was born evil without a word, and the more he cursed, the more his thoughts became more accessible, a ghostly voice suddenly sounded from behind him. Who? Danzo pulled out kunai and turned his head reflexively. The moment he turned his head, a scarlet eye with a black dart-like pattern was caught in his pupils. At the same time, he also saw clearly who the attacker was. Mask, black clothes, and the only Mangekyo Sharingan exposed to the air. All of these characteristics tell him the identity of the person. Since you want Mangekyo Sharingan so much, feel the power of it yourself. Uchiha Obito stared at Danzo with one eye. The windmill pattern of Mangekyo Sharingan turned frantically. You're not dead. You want to manipulate the old man. Danzo's old face became ferocious. Facing Uchiha Obito's pupil power, he did not hesitate to mobilize his spiritual energy to fight against it. However, a black shadow like a stream of water came to his feet along the ground, and then suddenly merged into his body. What? Danzo's face changed drastically, his facial features twisted into a ball on the spot. Although he tried his best to resist, he fisted in a combination of Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu. His spirit was finally defeated by Mangekyo Sharingan's pupil power. Ha! This old guy really deserves to be a strong man of the older generation. If he hadn't been annihilated by Tenu, Uchiha Kagami's eyes, and the use of Izanagi had consumed a lot of chakra, I really might not be able to control him. Quote, Uchiha Obito breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Danzo's one-eyed three-hook jade pattern. What are you going to do? With the blue dragon, the road between Akatsuki and Nagato was completely blocked. Moon Eye's plan was about to collapse before it even started. Quote, after cooperating with Uchiha Obito to control Danzo, Black Zetsu slowly separated from his body. Speaking of Tenu, the blue dragon, Black Zetsu's jet black face couldn't help showing a palpitation visible to the naked eye. Almost died. If he is not the mother's will. If he is not enough. If he hadn't secretly collected a lot of Sharingan for 1,000 years. Both he and Obito are dead. Even if Obito can live, that Mangekyo Sharingan will definitely be destroyed. It won't be a crash. Akatsuki can't accommodate us, so that's not a big problem. Isn't this an organization that has come to the door? Quote. When Uchiha Obito heard Black Zetsu mention Tenu, the Scarlet Mangekyo Sharingan suddenly flashed with deep fear. It was the first time he saw such a monster. Obviously there is neither Senju nor Uchiha's blood, and he has swept the demigod, the Pot King, himself and Black Zetsu on his own, forcing him to almost abolish Mangekyo Sharingan in order to survive. Even if Black Zetsu had not been well prepared and successfully concealed the perception of the Blue Dragon, it is estimated that even if Mangekyo Sharingan was blinded, he would not be able to survive. Root. It's also a good choice. But Shao can replace Nagato with Root, but Danzo can't replace Nagato. Without Rinnegan, even if we capture all the 9 big-tailed beasts, there is no way to seal them in the Gedo statue. Quote. Black Zetsu glanced at Danzo, who was like a walking dead. You said that Konoha consultant Danzo was attacked by Akatsuki. What will happen to Konoha when the news is returned? Uchiha Obito whispered for a while, then said in a playful tone. You want to sell Akatsuki to Konoha. Hearing this, Black Zetsu's eyes lit up. An organization that owns both Qinglong and Rinnegan, and is also an organization that plots against the 9 big-tailed beasts. Thinking of Konoha's high-level reaction, he found it very exciting. It's just the first step. Hasn't Mr. Danzo always had a Naruto dream? Since we borrowed someone's body, of course we have to help him realize his dream. Uchiha Obito said quietly. Snort. Qinglong. Dare to beat me to death. Nagato. How dare to use my plan in vain. You two won't play with me together, right? Then I will lift the table so that you can't play. Hee. After tasting the meaning of Uchiha Obito's words, Black Zetsu also showed a meaningful smile. It seems that being kicked out of Akatsuki's organization is not a bad thing. If everything develops as it should, then the 5 great ninja villages, they are equivalent to 2 of them. Konoha and Mist Shinobi are under their control. Taking a step back, even if Danzo's Naruto failed, they still have a root organization in their hands. No matter how he thinks it smells so good. Coincidentally, Uchiha Obito and Black Zetsu are thinking about using Danzo as a springboard to control Konoha. On the other side, Tenu, Yahiko, Nagato and Konan are also discussing how to replace Hanzo and control Rain Shinobi Village. However, the 2 founders of Akatsuki, Nagato and Yahiko, disagree for the first time on how to manage Rain Shinobi. Yahiko wants to choose a Hanzo's trusted supporter as the puppet leader in Rain Shinobi Village, and then take over the authority of Rain Shinobi Village step by step, so as to minimize the impact. However, Nagato believes that at this time, he should cut the mess quickly, taking advantage of Hanzo's death by Tenu. Rain Shinobi Village has no leader, and takes over Rain Shinobi's authority in one fell swoop. Tenu, what do you think should be done? Seeing that Yahiko and Nagato were flushed, Konan could only turn to Tenu, who was eating melons and wondering how to cut Kong Yun into a black knife. Although she is also one of the founders, she is the least assertive of the 3. When Yahiko was not dead, she listened to Yahiko. When Nagato was not dead, she listened to Nagato too. But here comes the problem. Now both Yahiko and Nagato are living well. It happened that she thought the 2 of them had a good idea. For a while, I didn't know who to support. A trivial matter like Rain Shinobi Village, do you need to send me out? Tenu waved his hand indifferently. He is only interested in 3 things. Sign in time. Sign in for members of Akatsuki. Sign in location. Otherwise, as long as the 3 of Yahiko live well, he doesn't care about them. He is more interested in how to turn Kong Yun into a black knife than to take over the small things like Rain Shinobi Village. This exclusive weapon of the world's strongest man, not a black sword, is already one of the 12 great knives. What if you become a black sword? It's not a big deal, but it's not a solution for them to keep fighting like this. What do you think of this? I give you money, will you help me to balance them? Quote. Konan took out 2 bundles of detonation charms and pushed them in front of Tenu. For the country of Rain, even the richest woman in the ninja world, any problem that can be solved with money is not a problem. Who do you look down on? Is this a question of money? Quote. Tenu didn't squint. He didn't even look at the detonating symbol in front of him. 2 bundles of detonating charms, isn't it more than 1 million taels? Snort. Konan, Who is this rich lady looking down on? As a man with a net worth of more than 50 stacks of detonating charms, he really didn't look at the 2 bundles of detonating charms in front of him. Can't I give money? Conan was caught off guard. Over the past 10 years, Tenu has tried the trick of giving money repeatedly. Unexpectedly, not only was rejected miserably this time, but Tenu actually didn't even look at her money. Is this blue dragon already unmoved by money? Why don't you try the beauty yourself? One of them is a sibling brother, the other is my beloved relatives and friends. No matter who I help, it will hurt the other side. Quote. Just when Conan was thinking about the nature of the dragon, whether he should consider covering Tenu with beauty, he saw Tenu give him a sideways look, righteously said. You have to add money. Quote. Quote. Conan stretched out his hand to cover his face. I think too much about feelings. This blue dragon still loves money so much. Have nothing to say. Isn't it money? She didn't dare to say anything else. With regard to money, she really hadn't met an opponent in the ninja world. At the moment, 100 stacks of detonating charms have been pushed in front of Tenu by her. Quote. Quote. Tenu moved slightly. With 2 stacks of detonating charms, he can still keep his eyes open. But when Conan makes a bold move, there are 100 detonation charms between his gestures, which is more than the net worth he has accumulated for 10 years, he has to face it. One detonating symbol is 90,000 taels. A stack of 100 detonating symbols is 9 million taels. 100 wads is 900 million taels. Although it is not enough to cut off his righteousness from his brothers, loved ones, and friends, it's okay to forget all the human feelings for the time being. Not to mention, Conan added money to ask him to do errands, but not to ask him to kill his brother. Okay, shut up both of you. Willing to increase money, but also enough, Tenu did not hesitate to interrupt Nagato and Yahiko who were still arguing. Tenu, you are here at the right time. It just happens to be fair to the 2 of us. Quote. When Yahiko saw Tenu no longer eat melons, his eyes brightened. Tell me, is my plan better than Yahiko's? Nagato followed. What is noisy? Win a mere Rain Shinobi village, still need a plan. As the leader of Rain Shinobi village, don't you just have a hand? Quote. Tenu waved his hand. Rain Shinobi village or something, he is not interested. Akatsuki's affairs were pretty much the same. But he is nothing good. The professionalism that should be there is still there. As a mature little boy who has been kept for 10 years, now that he has received the money from the rich woman, it is time for the rich woman to relax physically and mentally. At the moment, he didn't give the 2 a chance to refute. He got up and twisted Yahiko and Nagato like a chicken with one hand. Then he called Conan and walked out of Akatsuki's base in a stride. Tenu, where are you taking us? Wait, you are not going to Rain Shinobi village, are you? Nagato and others wondered what Tenu wanted to do at first. But soon, they discovered that this was the way to Rain Shinobi village. Just the 4 of us going to Rain Shinobi village, is it a bit wrong? Should I go back and call someone? Quote. Conan sensed Tenu's intentions and couldn't help but feel a little worried. Akatsuki is not the only 4 of them. The organization was founded 10 years ago, and at its peak, it had hundreds of members. Otherwise, it will not attract the jealousy of the ninja demigod and the Konoha pot king. What kind of person is it? You just have to look at it. After Tenu finished speaking, he turned into a blue dragon and flew over the Rain Shinobi village with the 3 of them. Look, what's that? Dragon, my god, that's a blue dragon. Take the notice, there is a dragon in the sky of Shinobu village. Hundreds of meters of green dragon, entrenched in the sky above Rain Shinobi village, caused a huge sensation in an instant. Although Hanzo is dead, as Rain Shinobi village, which was second only to the 5 major ninja villages in the past, there is still a reserve of ninjas. It's really a dragon. Hattori Chizo. Not only is the squad leader of Rain Shinobi Jonin's class, but at the same time Hanzo stays at the confidant and stand-in of Shinobi Jonin. After learning that a blue dragon flew over Shinobu village, he immediately brought a large ticket, Rain Shinobi, to come. But when he witnessed Tenu transforming into a blue dragon's posture, his vision and mind suddenly suffered an unprecedented shock. The dragon body that is hundreds of meters long and winding in the clouds is a size far less than that of an ordinary tail beast. Tenu, I think you might as well consider what I just said. Now it's too late for me to go back. Quote, Conan stretched out his hand to grab a dragon claw, and saw that the top floors below his sight were full of ninjas, and couldn't help but persuade Tenu. I agree. I second. Yahiko and Nagato, who had been arguing with each other before, watched rain shinobi coming from all directions, and reached a consensus in an instant. It's not they. It doesn't matter whether you take the power of rain shinobi village with a sharp knife, or support the puppets, slowly. This should not be done like Tenu is doing now. Fly into rain shinobi village with all eyes in full view. There was no defense and no action, so rain shinobi was allowed to mobilize troops. Tenu's behavior made them all feel a little nervous. Whatever the intention of this dragon, now that the troops in the village are concentrated, I don't have to be afraid of him either. Quote, the Hattori Chizo, who had been staring at Tenu vigilantly, for fear of any changes in the other party, saw that 80% of Rain Shinobi Village's forces were gathered around him, and felt a little relieved. All those who can come, please shout out. At this time, Tenu's voice wrapped in the mighty dragon sounded leisurely. In the sky of Rain Shinobi Village, thunder and wind roared in an instant. In an instant, the storm of countless rains, the thundering purple lightning, and the terrifying thundercloud that was about to collapse at any time, dragging the sky down together, have enveloped most of the Shinobu village. You gave us time on purpose. Hattori Chizo changed in horror, and suddenly felt uneasy. Otherwise, what do you think? Tenu looked down at Hattori Chizo with gaze. Just a glance, an unspeakable oppression hit the heart of Hanzo's confidant like a heavy hammer. This dragon, not easy. It's more terrifying than Hanzo-sama. Quote, after Hattori Chizo and Tenu looked at each other, their faces turned pale. As Hanzo's confidant, he knows Hanzo's strength better than anyone else. But Hanzo-sama, who he regarded as unmatched, was far from being comparable to Tenu in front of him in terms of power. Why are you doing this? For a while, Hattori Chizo stabilized his mind. He was calm on the surface, but secretly gestured to a Rain Shinobi Jonin next to him. Tell the other party to contact Hanzo-sama. I have a friend, his name is Yahiko. He wants to be the leader of Rain Shinobi Village. So here I am. Quote, Tenu uttered a word, and the sound exploded like a thunder to Rain Shinobi's ears humming. Is it so direct? Tenu, I think you might as well be more reserved. At least when talking about your friends, you don't need to call out my name too. Quote, when Yahiko heard it, his expression was like bitter gourd. Yahiko found this blue dragon. It's only Chief Shao, how dare he? Does Yahiko really consider himself a person? He actually tried to take advantage of the position of the lord of a village. When Hattori Chizo and the many Rain Shinobi around him heard this name, their expressions became more exciting. Especially when they saw that Yahiko was in the sky, many Rain Shinobi pointed at Yahiko on the spot and yelled. Whether I am a dragon or a summoning beast that resembles a dragon. But I think you also heard what the ninja in our village said. The Lord of Rain Shinobi. Only our Hanzo University are qualified to serve. Quote, as soon as Hattori Chizo finished speaking, a tattered corpse had fallen from the sky and landed at his feet. When his eyes fell on the corpse, he was hit hard. This is Hanzo-sama. Impossible. Master Hanzo is a demigod of ninja world, how could he be? Although the corpse was broken, all Rain Shinobi present recognized it at a glance. This corpse is their Hanzo-sama, the ninja demigod in their mouth. He is not qualified, Tenu said unhurriedly. You actually killed Hanzo-sama. After Hattori Chizo, who was awakened by Tenu's voice, blurted out, he immediately regretted it. When he said this, it was undoubtedly that the corpse in front of him was Hanzo. Is it really Hanzo-sama? Master Hanzo is a demigod, how could he be killed? Is the dragon really invincible? As predicted. Rain Shinobi, who had been upset because of Hanzo's corpse, when he said this in Hattori Chizo, not only were people panicked, but their morale dropped crazily. Originally, most Rain Shinobi were more afraid of the sudden blue dragon. But now when many Rain Shinobi look at Tenu, their eyes are already showing fear. Killed the leader of our Shinobi village. Hanzo-sama, dare to show up in Rain Shinobi village. I think you clearly didn't put us Rain Shinobi village in your eyes. What about the dragon? There are more than 1,000 ninjas here, don't come here. Everyone listened and raised your endurance tools to avenge Hanzo-sama. Quote. Seeing that the ninjas in the village were not only demoralized, Hattori Chizo immediately shouted loudly before they even fought. What about the dragon? I really thought that if you kill Hanzo-sama, you can occupy Rain Shinobi Village. He really doesn't believe it. There are thousands of ninjas around him. Are you still afraid of the 3 dragons? 1,000 ninjas. Tenu condescendingly looked down at the starters Hattori Chizo and China Rain Shinobi. His pair of dragon eyes, full of gaze, began to show a touch of terrifying orangutan. Boom! Conqueror's Haki, who was overbearing and full of mighty dragons, suddenly descended. Superior Conqueror's Haki is fully open. Suddenly, it swept across the area like a storm, and even spread to the farther direction of Rain Shinobi Village. Where Conqueror's Haki went, whether Rain Shinobi or ordinary people, they all felt strong heart palpitations, dizziness, and powerlessness. Fang Buddha's forehead was beaten frantically with a hammer. Patter. 1, 2, 3. More and more Rain Shinobi fell on the top floor and the ground like the autumn wind sweeping leaves. Answer me. Yahiko should be the leader of Rain Shinobi. Who agrees? Who opposes? Quote. Tenu opened the scarlet dragon eyes, and stared coldly at the sluggish Hattori Chizo below in the posture of the Dragon King of the ninja world. Quote. Hattori Chizo looked blankly at the ninjas around him who had fainted, and at the dozens of jonin who were standing sporadically besides himself. He opened his mouth, but in the end he couldn't say anything. The murder of Hanzo-sama is of course difficult for him to accept. But compared with the terrifying picture of Rain Shinobi under jonin, the demigod is dead again, which is nothing to him. It's not just Hattori Chizo who collapsed, but those Rain Shinobi jonin who carried Tenu's Conqueror's Haki and did not faint, all felt like the world turned around, sitting on the ground one by one, speechless. Looking up at Tenu who is entrenched in the sky with a gray face. Is this your real power? Tenu. Yahiko raised his head and barely saw Tenu's dragon head. It's really as you said, the master of Rain Shinobi, just have a hand. The stunning feat of Tenu suppressing a ninja village by himself, Nagato's pair of Rinnegan also lost their former majesty. It is replaced by a strong shocking color. Rain Shinobi's authority has changed hands. Conan stared at Tenu deeply, muttering in his mouth. Quote. Yahiko and Nagato were silent at the same time when they heard this. Hattori Chizo waiting for Rain Shinobi at the bottom listened and was also silent. In front of Tenu who overlooked the entire Rain Shinobi village, no one dared to refute or deny Conan's words. At this point, let alone Hanzo is dead. Even if the demigod returns, it can't stop Rain Shinobi from changing hands. The change of kingship has not been without blood since ancient times. Although the power of the lord of a village cannot be compared with the kingship, it is impossible to succeed if someone outside the village seizes power by force. However, the change of ownership of Rain Shinobi Village this time has come from the beginning and no one has died. From Tenu's appearance in Rain Shinobi, to Yahiko replacing Hanzo as the leader. The whole process is completed without a bloody sword. Whether it was jonin, such as Hattori Chizo, who held Tenu's awe-inspiring shock, or Rain Shinobi, who was stunned by Tenu, they all cooperated in an orderly manner after waking up. At the end of the day, not only did Yahiko become the leader of Rain Shinobi as he wished, but he had not been in power for half a day, and the weight of power was still higher than Hanzo's life. Yahiko knows, Nagato knows, Conan knows too. All this stems from the Azure Dragon entrenched behind Shao. Seeing everything develop as it is, and witnessing that his childhood partner has really become the master of Rain Shinobi, Nagato was also aroused with ambitions. After Yahiko became the leader of Rain Shinobi, although the dream of peace in the ninja world is still far away, it is indeed an extremely important step. He doesn't want to be behind Yahiko. For this reason, Nagato stayed up all night, and the next day he twisted a plan called Akatsuki, and found Tenu. You want to regroup Akatsuki? Tenu lay on the sofa, while using armament Haki to constantly try to cut the clouds into black knives, while eating the grapes that Conan had peeled and fed by himself. Good. Although Yahiko became the Lord of Rain Shinobi, at best he could only bring peace to the country of Rain. Peace in the ninja world is still unattainable, let alone permanent peace. Quote. Nagato handed the Akatsuki plan to Tenu, and then explained. My plan is like this. The first step is to reorganize Akatsuki and incorporate all Akatsuki's original members into Rain Shinobi Village. The second step is to recruit the strong, with 2 people as a small team, a total of 10 people, forming the core of Akatsuki. The third step is to gather money. The fourth step is to catch the tail beast. As for the last step, if the tail beast weapon is as the Mr. Madara said, then, we will conquer the world and rebuild the order of the ninja world. Quote. Speaking of rebuilding order in the ninja world, Rinnegan of Nagato exudes suffocating majesty. His, conquer the world. Nagato, will you come for real? What if that guy who calls himself Uchiha Madara is lying to you? If we really capture the 9-tailed beasts, then no matter whether the tailed beasts' weapons are real or fake, it is basically equivalent to declaring war on the 5 great ninja villages at the same time. Quote. Before Tenu spoke, Conan had changed his pretty face, so shocked that he even put down the half-peeled grapes in his hand. Don't worry, when I wrote this, Akatsuki, plan, I thought about it for a whole night. And before I came, I had successfully summoning out the Gedo statue. After my observation, Rinnegan can indeed control him, and the Gedo statue does have terrible power. If on this basis, the 9-tailed beasts are sealed in the golem, it is very likely that it will have the power of destroying the country in one blow, as the Madara said. Quote. Nagato's Rinnegan burst into flames. Akatsuki. Not on his whim. It took him all night to think before he decided to conquer the world. Then Yahiko. Conan was interrupted by Nagato before he could finish speaking. Yahiko, let me talk about it. Now I just want to know what you guys think. Quote. Nagato said what you think, but his eyes are fixed on Tenu who is reading the Akatsuki plan. Especially you, Tenu. Your thoughts will be related to whether the Akatsuki plan can be carried out as desired. Quote. Seeing this, Conan could only cast his gaze towards Tenu. She knew that if anyone else could make Nagato change his mind, that person would be Tenu. Regardless of the past 10 years of signing in, the 3 of them raised Tenu. But every time they encountered a major decision, they would consult Tenu, and even often the decision was made by Tenu, the first veteran of Xiao Xiao, rather than the founder of their 3 Xiao Xiao. Nagato, have one thing to say. I have only one thing to say about your Akatsuki plan. Quote. Tenu closed the Akatsuki plan, and Nagato said with a serious face. You say. Nagato looked like a primary school student waiting for the teacher to announce the results of the test paper, sitting in a dreadful manner. The location of the codenamed Qinglong and the ring of Qing in the Akatsuki belong to me. Tenu's eyes touched Nagato's solemn Rinnegan, and then said with a serious face. Nagato. Conan. Okay, Nagato. I have no opinion on your Akatsuki plan. Quote. Tenu put the ring engraved with the word blue on his hand, with a satisfied smile on his face. But Tenu, will this be too messy? Unlike Nagato, who was excited and gearing up, Conan was worried. Nothing. Now that Nagato wants to make trouble, then bear my name and run in the ninja world to your heart's content. Even if you want to destroy the ninja world for this, it doesn't matter. As long as this is what he wants. Nagato is so are you and Yahiko. Quote. Tenu crossed his chin with his fingers crossed, his face did not change, and he wrote lightly. If one day, Nagato's daybreak plan fails, and the tail beast weapons are not enough to deter the ninja world, and the 5 great nations are brought in, then I will personally take action and bury them along with the inherent order of the ninja world. As soon as he finished speaking, Conan and Yahiko heard a thud in their ears. Immediately afterwards, the walls and floor of the room had been shaken to pieces by the conqueror's haki released from him, and they were covered with cracks like spider webs. Tenu. Conan looked at Tenu in front of him, and suddenly there was a kind of emperor who he was looking up high, sitting on the throne, looking down on all living beings. The grandeur of the king who squinted the ninja world and looked down upon the heroes made her look dumbfounded. How strong are you? Why can't even my Rinnegan see you through? Quote. Not just Conan, even Nagato, who owns Rinnegan, feels ashamed at this moment. That sublime Rinnegan, under Tenu's courage, not only looked pale, but even turned bleak. Tenu, take a look. These ninjas were specially selected by me after screening. From the intelligence point of view, they all have the qualifications to become a member of Akatsuki. Especially this ninja named Kakuzu. It is estimated that you will need to take a trip yourself before it is possible to recruit him. Quote. After a while, Nagato recovered from the impact of Tenu's Conqueror's Haki. Seeing that Akatsuki not only got Tenu's support, even Tenu joined Akatsuki, he felt confident. I not only have Rinnegan, but also Tenu's great help. After thinking about it, he really couldn't find his own daybreak and there was a reason to fail. Kakuzu. A hint of playfulness flashed through Tenu's eyes. Not to mention that Kakuzu is the legendary ninja who lost a shuriken at Senju Hashirama 800 miles away, and it is worth his visit just to rush to the other person as the Akatsuki mission recognized by the system. Before signing into Uchiha Obito and Ju, he activated the Whitebeard template and got a supreme knife. Just don't know what surprises the system will bring to him when signing into Kakuzu this time. Who is so good? Actually want Tenu to be dispatched in person. Quote. Konan was surprised and couldn't help picking up Kakuzu's information. In her opinion, Tenu is a man who can kill the demigod of the shinobi world in one blow. Whether it's the Akatsuki of Reconstruction or Rain Shinobi Village, Tenu is like a nuclear weapon. Konan, don't underestimate this ninja named Kakuzu. He is a strong man who has challenged Senju Hashirama, the god of ninjas, to survive. Before I have fully grasped Rinnegan's power, I dare not say that I can defeat him. Quote. Nagato said solemnly. Are you serious, Nagato? Tenu glanced at Nagato weirdly. There is a saying, he is a bit suspicious that this guy Nagato is like Uchiha Madara. One has pillar blowing properties, and the other has angular blowing properties. Can't win Kakuzu. There is one thing to say, you can kill Kakuzu more than 5 times with the 2 pupil techniques of Shinra Tianzhong and Universal Pull. Hiss. Challenge the ninja god without dying. No wonder you would say that only Tenu can recruit him. Tenu, should I go with you? Quote. Konan took a breath after reading Kakuzu's information once. Then go. Tenu glanced at Konan with a bit of amusement. Kakuzu only. Don't talk about Nagato, believe it or not. As long as you, a rich woman, show the ability to draw money, you can immediately beat Kakuzu to the point where you can't take care of yourself. You wait for me. When Konan heard that Tenu wanted to recruit a man who would not die to challenge the god of ninjas, he immediately picked up the detonating charms of the large and small bags from the room, and then stuffed them all into the ninja scroll. This action made Tenu and Nagato on the side see a cold sweat. Konan, these dangerous goods are not allowed to be kept at home in the future. Nagato almost couldn't control himself, just a shot of Shen Luo Tianzhong. No way, even if it was just a quick glance, the number of detonators that Konan took out of the room was at least 1 million. 1 million detonating charms suddenly broke out, and his scalp numb after thinking about it. With this level of banknote ability, let alone kill Kakuzu. It's okay to let Kakuzu kneel and call your mother. Quote. Tenu was a little speechless. Millions of detonators exploded, but he didn't care. Anyway, at most it can only blow up a layer of clothing. It's just soliciting a Kakuzu, you don't need to have hands, just have money. Still need to be so solemnly. Chapter 21. Although after his own persuasion, Konan finally decided to bring only half of the inventory, but Tenu saw it very clearly. Even if it is only half of the inventory, the number of detonating charms Konan carries with him must be more than 10 million. 10 million detonating charms. What is this concept? One detonating symbol 90,000 taels. 10 million. Konan, actually you don't have to think about that much. Give me all the money and I will help you get Kakuzu right away. You want him to be dead or alive, or half alive. Quote. Tenu stared at Konan with scorching eyes. Mainly staring at the pile of scrolls in Konan's pocket. Where are the tens of millions of detonating charms stored? No, this time we are going to recruit Kakuzu who can fight the ninja god. Maybe there will be conflicts with him. By then, these detonating charms will be able to play a huge role. Quote. Although Konan was a little moved, she shook her head when she thought of Kakuzu's sturdy record. It's not that she doesn't want to use the money to support Tenu. But it's important. After all, it was not the ninja demigod who faced this time, but the existence of a god who had challenged the ninja. A battle with the ninja. The corner of Tenu's mouth twitched slightly. That's it again. It seems that the legendary shuriken has really made the horn blow for a lifetime. But now Kakuzu has one more thing that will last a lifetime. At Akatsuki, Qinglong and Baihu personally dealt with him without saying anything. The rich woman Baihu also specially prepared tens of millions of detonating charms for him. Even if she didn't press it herself, the rich woman planned to bring 20 million detonating charms. Seeing that the rich woman is ready to go, Tenu immediately rides on the clouds and rises into the air. Conan also performed the paper dance, spreading a pair of angelic wings to follow Tenu. With the flying speed of the two people, they rushed down at full speed, and quickly leapt over the land of rain. A new place to sign in is found. Does host sign in? When Tenu and Conan set foot in the land of Fireland, the sound of the system also rang in their ears. Sign in. In this regard, Tenu is not surprised at all. In the 10 years that Akatsuki signed in addition to signing in Rain Shinobi Village, he also signed in Rain Shinobi Village. Is it unreasonable to be able to sign in for the first time in the country of fire? Successfully signed into the country of fire. Congratulations to host for obtaining the refining black knife once. Tienu's face moved slightly. Refining the black knife once. Could it be that the refining black knives obtained by signing into the country of fire this time allows him to refining any weapons into black knives? Thinking of this, he flew towards the destination of this trip, the gold exchange on Duanchi Street, and stretched out his hand to pull out the supreme big knife Kong Yunchi that was on his back. Tenu, are there any enemies? When Conan saw Tenu suddenly pulled out Kong Yunchi, he immediately looked at the bottom with vigilance. Don't worry, there are no enemies. I just want to be sure of one thing. Quote. Tenu relieved Conan, then said silently in his heart. System, cut Kong Yun into a black knife. Then he tried to wrap armament hockey in his body around Kong Yunchi. After getting Kong Yun cut, he tried to use armament hockey to refine Kong Yun cut into black knives more than once. After all, Dracula Mahawk's knight, but trained as a black sword, is nothing more than a supreme sharp knife. And Kong Yunchi, not a black knife, already ranks among the supreme big knives. Once you become a black sword, then it's worth it. But soon, he discovered that refining the black knife was not as simple as he thought. It's not that armament hockey is strong enough, so you can definitely become a black sword. If it were that simple, Roger, Rayleigh, and Golden Lion's sabers would have been trained as black knives one by one. After many attempts, he understood that in order to refine the black sword, in addition to mastering a strong enough armament hockey, it also requires a specific method and a strong enough swordsmanship. However, even though Kaido is a rare cultural figure among the four emperors, the name of his moves is more charming than one, and even better than the sword moves of the great swordsman. But it just sounds nice. After all, Kaido's skills are just stick skills, not swordsmanship. He who integrates the Kaido template is also a great hero, not a great swordsman. Regardless of whether Kong Yun cut it or a mace, he couldn't practice it into a black knife. However, when he passed armament hockey onto Kong Yunchi this time, he keenly perceives that Kong Yunchi's sharp sword has produced a strange change. Under the surprised gazes of him and Conan, the blade and handle of Kong Yun's blade showed a stream of jet black like a dragon. When all the black dragons merged into Kong Yunchi, a piercing knife sounded in vain. The air around Kong Yunchi became as viscous as water. While the blade trembled slightly, the invisible edge cut the air like water. Drink. Tienu's eyes flashed scarlet, and his right hand lifted Kong Yunchi up high. Scoff. The clump of clouds burst into an unprecedented dazzling black light, and even the surrounding air and even the clouds floating in the sky were all blackened one by one. Thunder 8 trigrams. Feeling the changes coming from Kong Yunchi, Tenu held Kong Yunchi's right hand and slammed it into the sky. Click. The atmosphere, clouds, and sky were cut apart simultaneously. No, to be more precise, it should be broken. A horrible crack, which was smashed by a giant with a brutal force, filled the space between the world and the earth, and slammed Conan's beautiful eyes full of horror. Your knife, what's wrong? I seem to think it has become stronger. Quote. When Conan woke up from his absence, he found that the dazzling black light that had wrapped the entire cloud cut had disappeared. The Kong Yun cut in the hand held by Tenu has changed drastically. The shape is still a long-handled knife, but the original silver blade has disappeared. Instead, there is a black blade that is so dark and so deep that the Buddha can suck all the surrounding light into it. Not only the blade's edge was changed, but the handle and guard were also plated with black iron. Because it is no longer just a supreme sharp knife, but a black knife. Tenu looked at Kong Yunchi, who had already been trained as a black knife, and the more he watched, the more he loved it. After practicing Kong Yunchi into a black knife, he discovered that this supremely sharp knife is not just as simple as becoming sharp and tough. Armament hockey's delivery, increase, etc. are far better than before. The most important thing is that the effect of abstaining from the king's addiction and Madara's shadow has become more remarkable. Although I don't know what's going on, it's also a good thing. At least when we faced the Kakuzu who challenged the ninja god, the odds of winning were even higher. Quote. Conan said with joy. Quote. When Tenu heard the words, the corners of his eyes twitched suddenly. Are you serious? Kakuzu knows, I think I really want to thank you. However, with the episode Black Blade Kongyun Cut, he became more interested in Kakuzu. Signing to the Land of Fire, he got a chance to refine the black sword with 100% empty hands. What about signing into Kakuzu? Just as Conan said, how could the other party be a man in a vest who singled out the god of ninja and never died? Maybe you can surprise yourself. With Black Knife Kongyun cut his fortune on his back, Tenu and Conan set off again. After entering the country of fire, the two flew non-stop, and the Short Book Street Gold Exchange soon caught their eyes. Let's wait for him here. Conan glanced at Kakuzu's information and planned to wait for him near the exchange house. No need. Tenu observation hockey opened fully and immediately felt a powerful breath. The legendary shuriken that is 800 miles away. The real hammer. With this breath, it is at the level of Hanzo. Still singled out the ninja god without dying. It is estimated that picking a wood-style clone has enough suspension. He came. Tenu looked at the gate of the gold exchange. It is an inconspicuous public toilet in front. When Conan heard this, he passed away suddenly. Under the gaze, within a moment, a figure with green eyes came out of the public toilet door. It is the legendary ninja, Kakuzu. Kakuzu. Conan turned out to be Kakuzu at first sight, and he immediately looked like an enemy. Kakuzu paused, his eyes fixed on Tenu and Conan. The more he looked, the brighter the green light in his eyes. The Buddha was looking at two rare treasures. Kakuzu. Although Conan is a little puzzled, why this legendary ninja doesn't seem to be very strong. At most Hanzo level, but soon, she thought of it. The real strong are always unpretentious and restrained. Just like the man she raised by her side. Before Tenu took the shot, who could have thought that this extremely dedicated man who only ate soft food for 10 years could actually kill a demigod with a single blow? No need to say more. I know you guys. Conan of Akatsuki, and Tenu. Quote. Kakuzu's eyes are burning, and his eyes are very aggressive. God treats me well. As soon as I left the money exchange, I encountered two heads with a total of over 300 million rewards. This time, even the time to go to the gold exchange was saved. Quote. As soon as he said this, the expressions of Tenu and Conan couldn't help but change slightly. What do you mean by this? Conan suppressed the suspicion in his heart and asked immediately. Although Akatsuki has a small name in the ninja world, all members may not be worth 300 million in total. Unless the news that Hanzo died at the hands of Tenu spreads in the ninja world. But except for the four of them, the insiders were either dead or controlled. As long as your head is worth 50 million 2 copies, I will come back to your question for free. Someone offered a reward for your head on the black market. Especially this one next to you. Tenu. The reward is as high as 300 million taels. Quote. After Kakuzu finished speaking, people were already like arrows from the string, rushing towards Tenu and Conan with a whistling sound. Wait, we are here to solicit you. Conan was interrupted by Kakuzu before he finished speaking. I am only interested in money. What shall organization? I am not interested. What's more, I am a man who has challenged the god of ninja. Even the 5 ninja villages are not qualified to let me play for Kakuzu. Quote. Although Kakuzu loves money as his life, he has been a bounty hunter for nearly 100 years. Of course, he knew that the higher the reward, the harder the head of the ninja. A female ninja at a young age is offering a reward of 50 million. A young man in his early 20s is even more outrageous to 300 million. Nothing, worth the price. But so what? He is not even afraid of the god of ninjas, will he be afraid of the man and woman in front of him? Conan, you think you might as well consider what I said before. Give me all the money and I will help you get Kakuzu right away. Quote. Just when Conan was approaching an enemy, Tenu didn't even look at Kakuzu, who was getting closer. It's this time, still joking. Kakuzu Legend Ninja. Those detonating points every minute is the guarantee of our lives. Quote. Facing the legendary ninja, Conan did not hesitate to unfold the paper wings, intending to avoid his edge first. Very smart. Face me, just avoid it. Unfortunately, I am the man who can fight Senju Hashirama. Quote. Like Uchiha Madara's squib properties, Kakuzu also has squib properties. However, the former is true and the latter is fake. Uchiha Madara blows Hashirama, that is love. Kakuzu blows Hashirama, that's blows himself. Wind style suppress. Kakuzu made a seal with both hands, and opened his mouth to spit out a violent storm like a shock wave. This wind style, so strong. Conan, who had already flown into the air, looked a little hesitant. Strong is strong, but it doesn't seem to match Kakuzu's record very much. At least the dragon she keeps can wind up a wind-style-sized tornado in the distance. Not to mention the comparison with Tenu's heat of burning mountains and boiling the sea, and the thunderous 8 trigrams that crushed the mountains. Maybe this legendary ninja wants to test us first. Yes, it must be true. Quote. Conan quickly thought of the reason. It must be that the legendary ninja hasn't made any effort yet. After all, it is a ninja who can fight Senju Hashirama. It is impossible to go all out with anyone. Just when Conan almost found the legendary name of Kakuzu, mixed with thick water, the legendary ninja's wind style had already slammed Tenu's body like a heavy cannon. You might as well try harder, I'm fine. Carrying the wind style of the legendary ninja frontally, Tenu tilted his neck and made a crisp sound of fried chestnuts. That's it really is a monster. 300 million taels, it's really clear price. Quote. Kakuzu's green eyes were dignified. Witnessing Tenu's physical strength, his body shook slightly. 3 black monsters wearing masks broke out from his back. The legendary ninja is finally going to be true. Seeing this, Conan immediately grabbed a scroll with his right hand. Wind style suppress, fire style head hard, lightning style false darkness. The roaring hurricane, the hot flames, and the violent thunder and lightning instantly blocked all Tenu's retreat. Muhitsu, and 3 high-level ninjutsu. Conan secretly said. Just now, I actually suspected that the legendary ninja's record was a little watery, really shouldn't. Fortunately, I wake up early. Otherwise, I am afraid I will suffer a big loss. What worries her even more is that Tenu faced Kakuzu's massive fire style, wind style, and lightning style 3 combos, standing on the spot from beginning to end, letting the flames, storms, and lightning strike one by one body. With your physique, it's okay to accept my 3-stroke ninjutsu frontally, and save a corpse. Of course, in the eyes of the legendary ninja, Tenu didn't avoid hiding, but couldn't hide at all. Legendary ninja, that's it. However, as soon as Kakuzu's voice fell, the thick smoke covering the surroundings suddenly dispersed. The undamaged upright posture of Tenu caught Kakuzu's eyes again. It's a big loss. This kid is worth more than 300 million taels. At least 6 billion. Quote. Kakuzu stared, his gaze wandering at the gold exchange booth on the side. If it is not forbidden by conditions, he even wants to rush into the exchange house and talk with the staff inside. This Tenu's reward pricing is too problematic. Seriously, your so-called record of challenging the god of ninjas, wouldn't it be that you lost a shuriken at the entrance of Konohagakure, facing the Naruto building where Senju Hashirama is located? At your level, it really makes me hard to believe how you survived Senju Hashirama. Quote. Tenu patted the dust on his body and said casually. Very good. I don't know how many years I haven't seen anyone who questioned my Kakuzu record. Originally, I wanted to spare your lives. It's not because of how strong you are, but because the money exchanges haven't given enough money. But just for you, I will make a loss-making business today. Quote. Challenge the ninja god. This is the golden lacquered sign that his Kakuzu is well known in the ninja world, overwhelming many bounty hunters and attracting countless benefactor fathers. How could it be smashed by someone? Kakuzu, who has never traded at a loss, immediately changed his mind. After all, after killing Tenu, he only lost 300 million at most. But if the signboard of the mixed meal is smashed, the loss will be more than 3 billion. Puff. In addition to the 3 black masked monsters that just appeared, 2 masked monster heads appeared again on Kakuzu's left and right shoulders. There are even monsters. Conan's face sank like water. The legendary ninja is really hammered. This ninja named Kakuzu has definitely challenged the god of ninja. 3 monsters are so strong. If there are 5 monsters, what's the deal? The ghost knows whether there are more monsters hidden in the opponent's body. Conan was frightened and unwound the scroll without hesitation, and she held the 2 large boxes in her hands at the same time. Kakuzu, who showed his trump card in one breath, was about to defeat Tenu with the attitude of facing the god of ninja. His nose suddenly twitched slightly. There can be nothing wrong. This is the taste of money. Woman, what's in your box? Kakuzu's green eyes moved away from Tenu and turned to Conan, who was flying in the sky. His tone is a bit rush, and a bit hot. Things that kill you. As Conan spoke coldly, the box opened. A wad of white flowered detonating symbols almost blinded Kakuzu's green eyes. 90,000, 18,000, 270,000. Kakuzu was trembling violently as if being hit hard. Immediately afterwards, he ignored the increasingly weird expressions of Conan and Tenu, and his green eyes stared at the 2 boxes held by Conan. At the same time, while counting in his mouth, his body trembled. This pretty girl, did you just say what you are going to do? After a while, Kakuzu recovered from his intense to almost dizzy happiness. Tenu looked at Kakuzu in a bit of amazement. His impression of this legendary ninja is the first water and the second dedication. It's not that he doesn't know that Kakuzu loves money like his life, but he didn't expect to love it to this point. Frankly speaking, this time he met his opponent. To your life. Conan didn't let his guard down. This is an old monster who has lived for more than 100 years. The ghost knew if the other party was secretly preparing some big move. To my life. Pretty girl, you said it earlier. How hard can it be to want my life? You give me the money and I will take care of myself. Kakuzu pointed at the 2 boxes of detonation charms in Conan's hand. Do you consider me an idiot? Conan sneered. She has had the experience of being deceived. Not long ago, Hanzo fooled her. Not only did she become a hostage herself, she almost killed Yahiko and Nagato. If it hadn't been for the little milk dog that she had raised for 10 years, she would have been utterly shameless. If you don't believe me, you might as well give me a box first. Maybe you don't believe it, but people in our industry are most concerned about credibility. Just ask a colleague and you will know how good my Kakuzu credibility is. Kakuzu suddenly became anxious. Okay, I ignite it all for you. Conan sneered. Don't. Pretty girl, if you have something to say, don't be impulsive. Otherwise, pretty girl, I will fix myself once to show my sincerity. Do you think this is okay? With that said, Kakuzu showed a shuriken of the same model that was shot at the ninja god, and then thrust it into his chest. Puff. The sword fell with his hand, the mask shattered, and then a monster fell to the ground. Conan was dumbfounded. Tenu was also dumbfounded. Ruthless man, he has seen a lot. But when Kakuzu said to kill himself, he didn't hesitate to kill himself. It was the first time he saw him. Give me money. After killing himself once, Kakuzu stared at Conan with scorching eyes. To be precise, he was staring at a box of detonating charms in Conan's hand. Conan, who was a little uncertain, could only cast a glance at Tenu for help. Good guy. I asked Conan to give me the money, and I helped her get Kakuzu. It turned out to be good. Kakuzu took care of himself. Did you grab business like this? Although Tenu was slanderous in his heart, he still admired Kakuzu's behavior of using his life to make money. At least if I changed my own words, I couldn't do anything. Thinking of this, he nodded to Conan. Isn't it just a box of detonating symbols? Even if it all exploded, it wouldn't hurt him a single hair. If Kakuzu dared to play with him, it would be a big deal to reward the legendary ninja with thundering 8 trigrams, send him to see the god of ninja, and then get back the box of detonation talisman. Take it. Conan hesitated, and threw a box of detonating charms to Kakuzu. Tenu doesn't care, she doesn't care even more. It's just a detonation talisman, isn't it enough to have a hand? 90,000, 18,000, 270,000. After receiving the box, Kakuzu immediately squatted on the ground, picked up the detonation charms in the box with green eyes, and counted them with extremely skillful movements. Seeing his level of proficiency, there is no skill that is more than a good one, and he will definitely not be able to practice it. Tenu, have you known that Kakuzu has this hobby? That's why I asked me to give you the money before I set off, so you can kill him and reduce a competitor. Quote. Conan looked at Kakuzu and counted the detonating symbols without anyone else, and couldn't help but glanced at Tenu suspiciously. Am I such a person? Tenu didn't have a good air. Don't tell me, he really had this idea. But thinking about it, I gave up. After all, it's not Uchiha Obito and Zetsu. The members of Akatsuki are not spies, they are undercover agents. From beginning to end, only Kakuzu, a down-to-earth worker, was working for Akatsuki. After going to work, don't forget to work part-time to earn money for Akatsuki. With this enlightenment, besides Kakuzu, who else is Akatsuki? Even honest Kisame is nowhere close to Kakuzu. If I killed him myself, does Xiao Xiao still have a serious member? Does Nagato still have any available hitters? What do you say? Conan glanced back and smiled, giving Tenu a blank look. She really didn't wrong this dragon. Looking back on his 10-year nursing career, besides Go Zaixiao's organization, the dragon in front of him had to add money himself. She always feels that Tenu and Kakuzu are the same kind of people. All love money is life. The only difference between the two is that Tenu can handle Kakuzu for money. On the other hand, Kakuzu can do it for the money. It's a big profit. One day is worth the total income of the past 10 years. Is my life so valuable? If I had known this, I should have sold it sooner. Quote. Even though he was familiar with Kakuzu, it took him a while to count the box of detonating charms Conan threw to him. A box of detonating talisman has 1 life, and I still have 3 lives to sell. After counting today's financial income, while feeling refreshed, he couldn't help but fix his gaze on Conan's other box of detonating charms. Pretty girl, you also saw my Kakuzu integrity. If you are still interested in my fate, I can sell you 1 more, no, 2, or even 3. As long as you are willing to add money. Quote. Kakuzu raised 3 fingers. It's rare to be let go of his encounter with this golden master's mother. If he didn't die 3 times today, he would not leave. I'm not interested in your life. This time I am here to invite you to join our organization and bring permanent peace to the ninja world. Quote. When Conan saw that Kakuzu was no longer doing anything, and even willing to communicate, he couldn't help but send him an invitation. Join your organization. Isn't that about working for someone? Quote. Kakuzu frowned slightly. In the past, he had worked in Takigakura village, but was cheated by his boss. He vowed to believe no one, only money. If you want to understand this way, it's not impossible. Conan nodded. I reject. It's impossible for me to work part-time in my life. If you want to buy your life, you can find me at any time. As long as you give money, I can handle myself immediately. But if you work part-time, don't talk about it. Quote. Kakuzu refused without saying a word, even a trace of murderous intent appeared in his eyes. If you don't buy his life, why don't you kill Conan? In this case, not only the other box of detonating charms is also his, even Conan's head worth 50 million taels is also his. He glanced at Tenu. This idea comes quickly and goes quickly. He is really not jealous of Tenu, but that the money exchange office is not honest. Obviously this man started with a head of at least 600 million, but he was priced at 300 million. He Kakuzu has been in a business for a lifetime, how can he make a loss-making business? And it's a rare encounter in 100 years for a benefactor like Conan, it would be a bit of a loss to just do this. A full meal and a full meal, which is the more important, he Kakuzu can still distinguish. And many more. Conan wanted to speak again, but Kakuzu interrupted him very roughly. I said, I am only interested in money. For the sake of this box of detonating charms, I don't need your heads. But don't talk about part-time work or something. Quote. Kakuzu finished speaking, turned around and left. That decisive, free and easy, and swearing not to beat a worker's posture, gives people an indescribable moving style. I can add money. Conan glanced at Kakuzu's back, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. How much? Just turning around, Kakuzu raised his right foot suddenly stiffened. This pretty girl's money escape is so amazing. Actually grabbed the old man's dead spot all at once. I think you have 5 mask monsters in total, so you should have 5 lives. That's why you confidently say that you want to fix yourself. Quote. Conan looked at Kakuzu with a faint smile. So what? Having revealed the secret of his forbidden technique, Kakuzu didn't panic at all. Everyone knows that Senju Hashirama's ninjutsu is wood style, and Uchiha Madara's pupil technique is Sharingan. But so what? Who can bring down these two people? Thinking of him, Kakuzu is a legendary ninja, a man who has challenged the god of ninjas. Then naturally imitate the god of ninjas, and don't be afraid that others will know their skills at all. 1 life in 1 box. I will add to 5 boxes for you. But I don't want you to do it yourself, but I want you to join our organization. Quote. What is a rich woman? Conan is. If you don't make a move, you must buy Kakuzu 5 life. Kakuzu turned around suddenly, taking several breaths in his mouth. If you are willing to join us, you can continue to work part-time as long as you complete the tasks assigned to you by the organization as scheduled. Not only can get a salary in the organization, but also part-time bounty hunter. Quote. Conan paused. Isn't it money? For her first rich lady at Akatsuki, the problem that can be settled with money is not a problem. Not to mention the use of money to sign a legendary ninja to Akatsuki. Besides these 5 boxes of detonating charms, can I still get a salary? Kakuzu was hit hard, and a strong struggle appeared in his green eyes. The energy and financial resources of our organization are far beyond your imagination. Once you join, I can appoint you as the head of finance on behalf of the organization. You are the organizer every day, and all the money of the organization is yours. You don't need to report to me for expenses less than 30 million taels, you are responsible for the whole process. Quote. Conan pressed hard, and Kakuzu was defeated steadily with a sharp hand of money escape, forcing the legendary ninja to slump on the ground in the end. Go ahead, pretty girl. Who do you want me to kill for you? Quote. Kakuzu, who felt that he had been wasting time in the past 100 years, immediately got up from the ground, patted the dust on his body, and then said to Conan with words. Quote. Tenu, who had witnessed everything, fell silent for a while. He felt that he could not use it at all. With this hand of Conan's money alone, Tenka Legend Ninja, Kakuzu is all ready. Seeing that Kakuzu listened solemnly to Conan popular science about Akatsuki, and even focused and serious enough to take out a pen and paper to record what Conan said, Tenu suddenly shook his head. He knew that the first wage earner at Akatsuki, Kakuzu, is about to go online. This is the most trustworthy employee of Akatsuki. As long as Conan is alive, Kakuzu will never betray Akatsuki. Because betraying Conan is tantamount to betraying money. System, sign into Kakuzu. Tien said silently. He was looking forward to it. This is a legendary ninja. Although there is a lot of moisture in it, if you don't look at the strength, but only look at the record, Kakuzu's name is well known in the ninja world. Look at Conan and Nagato, who are convinced of this. Successfully signed into Akatsuki. Kakuzu, congratulations to host for obtaining Marine 6 Styles GARP version. When Tien heard about Marine 6 Styles, the whole person was not good. Is this because even the system thinks that Kakuzu, the legendary ninja, is full of water? Otherwise, how could the reward for signing in this time be so frustrated? Even after signing into the Land of Fire, the system gave him a chance to refine Kong Yunchi into a black sword. Consign in at Akatsuki, Kakuzu actually just got a Marine 6 Styles. This is not to say that signing into Kakuzu, a member of Akatsuki, is better than signing into the Place of Fire country. Also, he is dignified Qinglong. What does Marine 6 Styles want to do? Hit someone with finger pistol. Ping a skill. Thunder, are 8 trigrams bad. Tempest kick. Doesn't black knife Kong Yun cut incense? Use paper arts to dodge. Is observation hockey a decoration? Fatian uses moonwalk. Is Tengyun driving the fog fake? Iron body for defense. Is armament hockey fake? Also, who uses iron body for serious people? Iron body's law of death. How many marine heroes died, he didn't know. Thinking about it, it's a bit useful to shave. With his physique, plus the 3 minutes of Chatanra that had been practiced on the premise of starting this instant technique and shaved, it is still very awkward. However, when Tenu, who was extremely disgusted with the 6 forms, heard the system's prompt at the end, the GARP version, that sounded like the sound of nature sounded in his ears, how did he look at the 6 forms, how pleasing to his eyes. It's really you, Kakuzu. Among the people I have met, I only wish to call you a legendary ninja. Quote. With a GARP version, Tenu felt extremely pleasing to the eye when he even looked at Kakuzu. What do the 3 words, GARP edition, mean? I believe Kakuzu once challenged the god of ninja, not only Conan, but also the system. Can blow the record of the battle with the god of ninja to the point where even the system can believe it. An existence that can deceive the system. This is not what the legendary ninja is. Kakuzu, this is the uniform of Akatsuki and the ring that symbolizes your identity. Don't lose it. The role of the ring is not trivial. Once lost, long, the leader said that he would not kill you himself. Quote. At this time, Conan also shared the rules and regulations of Akatsuki and its purpose to Kakuzu. As long as you are willing to add money, Kakuzu's attitude is nothing to say. At least, Conan is very satisfied with Kakuzu's attitude of recording everything he said with paper and pen. It's okay, I can't kill. Kakuzu doesn't change his face. He has 5 lives, what is he afraid of? If the leader is willing to give money, he can handle himself. Why is it so troublesome for the leader to do it himself? He will deduct your money. Conan wrote lightly. I am with it. Kakuzu put on a solemn expression. Nagato worked overtime yesterday. He also changed dozens of handmade Akatsuki uniforms that Shadow Clone drove out overnight, and then put on a ring with the word, North, on his face solemnly and holy. As soon as he put the ring on, Kakuzu noticed that the ring on his finger suddenly lit up. Remember the technique I taught you just now. Use it to ignore the distance and receive the command from the leader. Quote. Conan finished speaking and turned chakra into a wave of thoughts. Seeing this, Kakuzu on the side also turned his chakra into a wave of thoughts. At the same time, Nagato, who was far away in the country of rain, accepted the thought wave of Tenu and immediately displayed the magic lantern technique. The 3 Tenu, who were still near the gold exchange on Duenka Street, immediately noticed that the scene in front of them had changed drastically. The gold exchange was gone, replaced by a black cave that was so dark that ordinary people could hardly see it. Tenu, Conan, and Kakuzu all stand on the fingers of the ghetto statue in the form of colorful phantoms. Rinnegan. Kakuzu's eyes turned and fell on the leader of Akatsuki for the first time. Although it was difficult to see his appearance under the magic lantern technique. But some salient features are still clearly presented. Like Rinnegan from Nagato. Boss, this is Kakuzu. Now he is a member of our Akatsuki. Quote. Except for the private meeting of the group of 4, Conan would not call Nagato's name directly when there are outsiders. When deciding to implement the Akatsuki plan, Nagato told her and Tenu. Until the time is right, the connection between Akatsuki and Rain Shinobi Village cannot be exposed. When we first met, I was the legendary ninja you were looking for to fight against the god of ninja, Kakuzu. For the first time meeting the leader who owns Rinnegan, Kakuzu certainly can't be rude. Have nothing to say. Sacrifice his only record and fame for the first time. He didn't want to be underestimated by the leader when he first met. Are you Kakuzu? When you first meet, you can call me a god. Rewrite the order of the ninja world, correct this wrong world, and bring permanent peace to the world. Quote. Nagato is not vegetarian either. When writing the Akatsuki plan, he knew what kind of arrogant soldiers he wanted to recruit. Legend has it that the ninja Kakuzu was the first, but definitely not the last. In order to better suppress the members of Akatsuki, he also specifically consulted Tenu. After all, he has witnessed Tenu's own power to help Hanzang avoid god addiction and Uchiha Obito to avoid Madara addiction. When it comes to force, he only takes Tenu, the blue dragon. In the face of Nagato's humbly study, Tenu did not hesitate to teach. Before he set off to recruit Kakuzu, he wrote a compulsive instruction called, "A Bag of Rice to Carry Several Floors," for Nagato. When opening this teaching at first glance, Nagato's first reaction was shy and embarrassment. What line is this? It's really secondary too. But after Tenu and Konan left, he took out this teaching book and read it carefully. He gradually began to feel shocked. Especially when he saw the line, "A bag of rice carries a few floors, there is mud in the mouth, who will give you a bag of rice, spicy Tiansen." He was shocked that the heavens did not say it, and almost couldn't help it. With a shot of Super Shinra Tianjong, he took Yahiko and the newly acquired Rain Shinobi village into dust together. He had to admit that Tenu's talent, and even more so, had to admit that Tenu really understood him too well. This teaching is simply tailor-made for him. Every sentence is used to pretend to be compelling, and he will remember it as soon as he reads it, and he will catch it as soon as he learns it. God. Kakuzu's face tightened slightly when he heard the words. He knew he had met his opponent this time. But when Nagato saw Rinnegan, who was still exuding lofty pupil power even under the magic lantern technique, he opened his mouth, and in the end he could only be silent. The companion is Tenu who makes him jealous, and the rich woman who Tien defeats him. The leader is the one who owns Rinnegan. At this time, he was shocked to realize that Akatsuki was far from being as simple as he thought. Why suddenly summon us? When Tenu saw Nagato talk about the lines he wrote, he had a strong sense of substitution, and he didn't have the shyness before, and he also laughed secretly in his heart. He can remember that Nagato was extremely resistant at first, saying that these lines were so secondhand, and how to say it. As a result, "How long is this?" found Sasori. In front of Kakuzu, Nagato pretended to be like a god. But in front of Tenu, he didn't dare to pretend to be a ghost. Where? Tenu and Konan looked at each other. Sasori of Red Sand, same as Kakuzu. It is one of Akatsuki members selected by Nagato. Only before they set off, Nagato hadn't found the location of Sasori in the Red Sand. How long have they been in the country of fire? Found it so soon. The land of wind. Judging from the information returned, Sasori of the Red Sand is hiding in a small oasis near Sunagakur. Quote. Nagato said, "He is a Sunagakur traitor. Not only does he not hide from Sunagakur, he also lurks near Shinobu village. What does he want to do?" Quote. Konan was puzzled. "I don't care about this. We only need to recruit him to become a member of Akatsuki." Quote. Nagato didn't care about Sasori's thoughts. Konan nodded. "Just go again. When Sasori of Akasago becomes a member of Akatsuki, I will put him and Kakuzu into a team. They will be responsible for the recruitment work in the future." Quote. Nagato said to Tenu and Konan. He also didn't want to trouble Tenu and Konan in everything. Especially Tenu, this blue dragon. In Nagato's view, Tenu is the trump card of Akatsuki and Rain Shinobi, the Dinghai God Needle of Akatsuki project. How can the existence of nuclear weapons be lightly moved? But the Akatsuki of the reorganization, at this stage the organization is so poor that only the detonation talisman is left. Coupled with the apparent separation from the Rain Shinobi village that Yahiko is in charge of, the number of people at Akatsuki is even more than 4. He can't give the job of recruiting people to Kakuzu, who has just joined in less than 3 minutes before Akatsuki, right? Row. For the front foot just arrived in the country of fire, and the back foot had to make another trip to the country of wind. Tenu was very happy. Sign into Fire Country and Legend Ninja, Kakuzu. He has already obtained a black knife Kong Yunchi, as well as the Garp version of the 6 styles. What about the country of wind and Sasori of the Red Sand? How can I say that Sasori of the Red Sand is the ninja who has killed the strongest wind shadow? Although third Kage's name is the strongest wind shadow, it has astonishing water content as Kakuzu's 3-word challenge to the ninja god, but it can't stand the system to eat this set. It doesn't matter if he believes it or not. As long as the system believes that third Kage is the strongest wind shadow. The world is so big, of course he has to go for a walk. After signing in for 10 years in the Shao organization, he now only wants to sign in all parts of the ninja world and sign in members of the Akatsuki. As for recruiting people for Nagato, catching the tail beast, and maintaining world peace, that's all by the way. Compared to the tempting 10 tails, what he wanted to see was the scenery that he could see after all the people of Akatsuki had signed in all parts of the ninja world. Right, boss, there is one thing I think it is necessary to tell you. Someone offered a reward for me and Tenu on the black market. Especially Tenu, his reward is as high as 300 million. Quote. Seeing Nagato finished talking about business, Konan immediately reminded. What about my reward? When Nagato heard this, Rinnegan burst into a terrifying cold light. Quote. Konan didn't speak, just looked at Kakuzu. I only saw Tenu and your reward in the black market. I haven't seen anything about Rinnegan yet. Quote. Other people's eyes, Kakuzu can be ignored. But to the Gold Master's mother, he was convinced. Is that so? Since you are familiar with the black market, I will arrange a task for you now. Find out who is offering us a reward for Akatsuki on the black market. Quote. Nagato pondered for a moment. He thought a lot, but this needs someone to help him confirm. Tenu and Konan went to recruit Sasori of Red Sand, and the task of tracking down the person who offered the daybreak was just given to Kakuzu. This is also his test of Kakuzu. However, Nagato was clearly careless. He looked at God's compulsion, and also looked at Rinnegan's deterrence, but underestimated Kakuzu's money-thirsty temper. Akatsuki chief, right, I recognize money but not people, you give me money and I will do things for you. Quote. A slideshow of Kakuzu appeared in front of Nagato. He poked Nagato's chest with one hand while speaking. Quote. The corner of Tenu's mouth twitched slightly. What is this? Do you help me add money to Akatsuki? Quote. Konan held his forehead a little speechlessly. Sure enough, the legendary ninja Kakuzu really did not disappoint her at all. Even Rinnegan turned a blind eye. It seems that to restrain this legendary ninja, she really has to escape with her money. I am the leader of Shao, and you are a member of Shao. Then you can't refuse the task arranged for you by the organization. Or do you want to experience firsthand the fate of rejecting God's will? Quote. Nagato, who was far away in the land of rain, turned black. I don't know why, he regrets letting Tenu and Konan to recruit Kakuzu. In exchange for him, he must beat Kakuzu first. But it's not too late. When Kakuzu found out about the black market rewards, he was the first to clean up Kakuzu. Don't tell me this, Chief, since you have found me, you have to do it or not. For a dime less, I will kill you. Quote. Kakuzu looked straight at Nagato's Rinnegan and said every word. Who is he? Ninja gods are unkillable. Just a pair of Rinnegan wants him to do something. What a joke. He didn't do this task for less than 5 million. Of course, if you don't want him to do it, you have to give him 5 million taels. Quote. Nagato didn't speak, but the pair of Rinnegan appeared to look at the dead. Don't be disrespectful to God, or even if God doesn't kill you, the angel will kill you. Konan ranted coldly. It's just that when she talked about God, she felt extremely second in her heart. What does Tenu think about this fool? First, Nagato was assigned the identity of a god, and then she was assigned the role of an angel. Can you not make people feel ashamed to say this line? Since it is God's will, then I should obey it. Kakuzu's slide avatar suddenly squatted down. His 2 fingers were rubbing quickly, as if counting something quickly. About 10 seconds later, when he stood up again, he had already put on a look of respect. Quote. Tenu looked at Kakuzu who had just squatted beside him and counted the money, and couldn't help being silent. He always thought he liked money enough. Compared with Kakuzu, he felt that he was clearly not interested in money. Quote. Konan put a scroll full of detonators back into the bag. God, as an angel, I can only help you here. Within 3 days, I want to see the results. Disband. Quote. Nagato stared at Kakuzu for a while. If Kakuzu had no one else's money counting action just now, he hadn't seen it from Tenu many times in the past 10 years, he would really think that Kakuzu respected him very much. After hesitating for a long time, he finally gave up the urge to rush to the country of fire in person and smash Kakuzu's inspiration with the palm of his hand. Starting a business is not easy, let alone the beginning of a business. With the help of Tenu, he finally sent away Mr. Madara and Ju, the two behind the scenes. He just wants to carry forward Akatsuki. However, at the Akatsuki of this time, if it is really to be counted, the employee will be Kakuzu alone. Kakuzu shook to death in one palm. It was a momentary pleasure, but after the refreshment, he, the leader of Akatsuki, became the commander of the Bachelor again. Kakuzu, the will of God cannot be violated. If you fail to complete the mission within 3 days, then you will be considered to have fled to the end of the world, but as long as you are still in the ninja realm, you will not be able to escape the chase of the gods. Even if you are a legendary ninja, you are no more than a mortal before God. Quote. After dispersing the slideshow clone, Conan warned Kakuzu solemnly. After all, this is the first employee after rebuilding at Akatsuki. It is still the legendary ninja she provokes. She didn't want to be so useful. The obedient ninja was beaten to death by Nagato because of the extra money. Since mastering the awakening Rinnegan's pupil power, she has clearly felt that the strength of this companion is getting horrible day by day. Angel, if you are willing to add money, I will be able to finish it in less than 3 days. Kakuzu was silent for a few seconds, then said, roll. Conan took a deep breath and almost couldn't resist the urge to blow up Kakuzu with 10 million detonating talisman. It is good. Hearing this, Kakuzu turned around and rolled out of the sight of Tenu and Conan. Although Conan refused the price, he was a bit regretful. However, it has always been his Kakuzu's forbearance to do things with money. Since Jinju's mother had this request, he was ready to go. Brother Akatsuki and money, he deserves it. Congratulations, Conan. You are already the most powerful woman in Akatsuki's organization. Tenu watched Kakuzu's leaving figure and sighed from the bottom of his heart. Let's go. Conan gave Tenu a look. A 4-person organization that is full of play is still powerful. As Tenu, Conan, and Kakuzu left one after another, the door of the gold exchange became quiet again. It's just that the 3 of them didn't know. In an inconspicuous corner, there was an inconspicuous tuft of pitcher plants. And the direction that this cluster of pitcher plants is facing is exactly where the 3 of them just stood. Monitoring a dragon is really a scary thing. What Black Zetsu said is really true. Even if it is mayfly technique, it must be motionless if it is too close to him, otherwise it is very likely to be discovered. No wonder Black Zetsu didn't let me monitor Nagato, but instead let me monitor him. The difficulty of monitoring this blue dragon is far higher than that of Nagato who owns Rinnegan. Quote. Tenu and the others left for a long time, and this humble cluster of pitcher plants slowly emerged, revealing a pale body. It's White Zetsu. And it's the main body, not the clone. Obviously, to monitor Tenu, Black Zetsu didn't worry about letting White Zetsu do it. Either White Zetsu's body was dispatched, or he dispatched himself. Looking at the direction they are leaving, they should be going to the Kingdom of Wind, and Black Zetsu and Madara must be notified. White Zetsu stared at the direction where Tenu and Conan had left for a while, and then his body slowly merged into the earth as if it had melted into the water. However, at this time, Tenu, who was flying in the clouds and flying above the sky, suddenly turned his head and glanced at the direction of Short Book Street. The dragon eyes had been occupied by scarlet rays for some unknown time. What's the matter, Tenu? Conan looked at it and couldn't help asking. Nothing. Tenu shook his head, secretly said in his heart. Is this listening to the sound of all things? It seems wrong. At best, it can only be regarded as listening to the voice of chakra. He had nothing to do since he set off. After 3 minutes of chattera in Conan's arms, he found that he could hear some special sounds when he used observation haki. At first, he thought he could listen to the sound of everything. But soon, he realized that it was not. Rather than listening to the sound of everything, he felt that it was listening to the sound of chakra. Just now, he heard a voice. Mayfly technique. Tenu retracted his gaze to look at Short Book Street, and a smile was revealed in the depths of his eyes. Konohagakure. In a room in the deepest part of the base, Black Zetsu emerged from the ground. There is news from White Zetsu that the Blue Dragon is flying to the Kingdom of Wind. At the speed of Qinglong, even if Conan drags his feet, he can reach the Kingdom of the Wind in the afternoon. Quote. Black Zetsu looked at Danzo, who was sitting on the chair in front of him. Very well, everything is as I expected. Next, just look at the performance of that snake. Quote. The masked man slowly walked out of the darkness behind Danzo. In Gen's base, it was Danzo's room, and they didn't need to hide it deliberately. That snake is not a good kind. Even if you give Danzo an order through the mouth, he may not listen to you. But don't change things again then. Quote. Black Zetsu's gloomy voice was suspicious. The plan to sink Nagato failed and was driven away in despair. If it hadn't happened to hit Danzo, like Uchiha Obito, they were both the unlucky ones who were blinded by Sharingan by Tenu. He and Uchiha Obito, the two behind-the-scenes guys, could only hide in the base left by Uchiha Madara at this time. Continue to eat dirt. He had encountered such a bleak condition for the first time in 1,000 years. This made him have to doubt Uchiha Obito's ability. After all, when Uchiha Madara was alive, everything went smoothly. But as soon as Madara died, Uchiha Obito almost collapsed as soon as he took over. What if it's not kind? I am Uchiha Madara. In front of my Mangekyo Sharingan, that snake is just a humble reptile. Quote. When Uchiha Obito heard it, the Madara addiction that had just been quit for a few days came again. Quote. Quote. Black Zetsu's expression immediately became a little subtle. He is familiar with this. The last time Uchiha Obito said this, it was when they were blown by Tenu together. If the person who said this were replaced by Uchiha Madara, he would believe it. But Obito, the scene of the other party being addicted to Tenu quitting Madara, he still vividly remembers. That snake is hiding the forbidden technique experiment carried out by Konoha's senior officials and Danzo. I have all the evidence in my hand. Unless he wants to become a betrayal and is chased to death by Konoha, the snake can only listen to me. It's not me who has the final say to rub him round and flatten him. Quote. Uchiha Obito coughed. Obviously, he also saw the meaning behind the subtle expression of Black Zetsu. Is it really? Although Black Zetsu's mouth was not questioning, even the subtle expression on his face was put away. But in my heart, I really couldn't get 10% confidence in Uchiha Obito. Now he really misses the days when Uchiha Madara was there. Why don't you find an opportunity to bring Madara back to life in advance? As soon as this thought appeared, it immediately took root in the bottom of Black Zetsu's heart like a bone gangrene. I really don't know what Sasori of the Red Sand thinks. Obviously it was rebellious and forbearance, so I didn't need to escape from the Kingdom of Wind, but he was still hiding in this small oasis closest to Sunagakur. What is he trying to do? Quote. In the sky of the Kingdom of Wind, Konan looked at the oasis in front of him, his eyes flashing suspiciously. Who knows? Tenu shrugged. He is interested in signing into these people at Akatsuki, and by the way help Nagato hire an employee. What does this employee think? How could he be interested? Is he here? Konan asked Tenu beside him. When recruiting Kakuzu, she knew that Tenu not only can transform into a blue dragon, but also possesses powerful perception abilities. There are ninjas here, but the aura is not very strong. Tenu felt it with observation haki. Is the information wrong? Or maybe he has left. Quote. Konan frowned slightly. In this regard, she did not have many surprises. Not to mention that the rebel ninja has no fixed place, just to say that the ninja itself has powerful maneuverability. It is normal to cross a country in one day. Not to mention that Sasori of the Red Sand is still the top grade among ninjas. No matter how fast they fly, the time required to fly from the country of fire to the country of wind is definitely enough for Sasori of the Red Sand to run thousands of kilometers away. It is possible, but not necessarily. Tenu shook his head slightly. In the short book Street Battle, he understood that observation haki's perception is not absolute. With the magical energy of chakra, some ninjas can even hide the perception of seeing, hearing. At least, I can hide from him observation haki, who can't predict the future and listen to all things. How to say? Konan didn't quite understand it. Boom. Tenu didn't speak, but a pair of black pupils on the white background had become erected dragon pupils. With the flash of scarlet glow, with his body as the center, a domineering and overbearing conqueror's haki, like the water of the Tianhe, poured down from the sky above the oasis. What? My head. Dizzy. Under Tienu's control, Conqueror's Haki, which descended from the sky, swept the entire oasis with the autumn wind sweeping the fallen leaves. It just so happens that the oasis is not big. With his Conqueror's Haki, he can achieve a full range of shocks without dead ends. In the oasis, whether ordinary people or ninjas, anyone who was shocked by his Conqueror's Haki, without exception, rolled their eyes and foamed and fell to the ground. In this process, Tenu has been engrossed all the time, carefully perceiving every breath in the oasis. Is this an illusion? No, this kind of brutal impact directly directed at the spirit and will is much more domineering than ordinary illusions. Quote, in an inconspicuous house, the red-haired Sasori who was making a puppet suddenly changed his face. Conqueror's Haki, who slapped his spiritual will one after another, suddenly, like a stormy sea, quickly formed the seal and mobilized his spiritual energy to resist. Conqueror's Haki is also a mental attack after all. It just so happens that similar abilities exist in the ninja world. That is illusion. Below Jonin, facing Tenu's 4 Emperors level Conqueror's Haki, he was shocked and collapsed. But a shadow level powerhouse like Sasori of the Red Sand is completely different. Not to mention the strong spiritual energy, the will is quite firm. The wave of Conqueror's Haki that held Tenu was shocked. Naturally, it was not a problem. Got you. The corner of Tenu's mouth raised slightly and immediately dispersed Conqueror's Haki. At the moment when Sasori of the Red Sand resisted his Conqueror's Haki's shock, his observation Haki felt that the originally weak aura in the oasis suddenly became stronger. It was like a burst of flame that suddenly ignited, and it was very eye-catching under his perception. Something's wrong. Sasori of the Red Sand found that Conqueror's Haki suddenly disappeared. He was startled at first, and then immediately reacted. But before he could make the next move, a voice that seemed like a smile but not a smile came into his ears. It's really not easy to find you. It's also the sight and taste, and it's Conqueror's Haki, that's why I found you. Are you planning to leave if you don't come out to meet the last time? Sasori of Red Sand. Quote. Although there are some parts of these words he doesn't quite understand, but Sasori of Akasha still understands the specific meaning. However, when he walked out of the house, he was still shocked by the oasis in front of him. 1, 2, 3. Wherever you can see, the ninjas in the oasis, or ordinary people, all fainted to the ground. The kind of technique just now. As expected, it's not just for one person. Judging from the current situation, this technique can at least cover the entire oasis indiscriminately. This is simply ants under Jonin. Quote, although he was mentally prepared, Sasori of Akasha still felt a panic when seeing the scene before him. Even if it was only a brief confrontation, he roughly understood the deterrent power of the wave of Conqueror's Haki Tenu just now. Unless you have a special bloodline or physique, people below Jonin are not even qualified to stand in front of this man. If he really wants to use one sentence to describe the ability of the man in front of him, he can only use this sentence. Under Jonin, all are ants. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.